Chapter 586. Ding. Successfully killed mysterious dragon divine general. Reward, 210 million EXP, 13,000 crazy point, 1,800 SPS. Reward, killing dragon, dragon spirit secret art. Reward, broken tooth, high-grade sacred tool, dragon spirit ring, low-grade sacred tool accessory, dragon god bloodline, 4th grade. Killing Spirit King stage cultivators gave him a lot of EXP compared to killing core transformation stage cultivators. Yi Tianyun got a lot more EXP. However, the dragon spirit ring dropped, which surprised him a lot. Finally, it started to drop accessories. He checked it a little, and the detailed data immediately appeared in front of him. Dragon spirit ring, low-grade sacred tool. Increases strength by 10 times and defense by 5 times. Consumes 5,000 crazy point to cast Dragon Roar. Damage is 50% of current combat power. Cooldown time is half an hour. Good stuff. Yi Tianyun is quite satisfied. No wonder he didn't drop any jewelry. This thing is really good, but he can only wear one. Although he had 10 fingers, even if he wore it, only one of them would work. If he could wear it on all 10 fingers, it would be heaven-defying. Just a ring that could increase strength by 10 times could increase strength by 100 times. Just the strength alone could shatter the void and destroy everything. When he checked the ring, everyone stared at him with their mouths agape, or at the corpses scattered on the ground, unable to close their mouths for a long time. This is really scary. A 7th layer Spirit King stage mysterious dragon divine general was cut in half so easily. He was cut in half like a piece of paper. Yi Tianyun immediately shifted his gaze to mysterious tiger divine general and the others' faces. Obviously, they were shocked by Yi Tianyun's power. They asked themselves if it was possible for them to cut someone in half with a single slash. Even if they had a high-grade sacred tool, mysterious dragon divine general's dragon scales were comparable to a mid-grade sacred tool, so it was quite difficult to cut him in half. But who knew that under Yi Tianyun's overbearing power, mysterious dragon divine general was still cut in half, shocking everyone. I don't have any helpers. I said that I can overthrow all empires by myself, but you don't believe me. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean others can't do it. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Suddenly, the guards behind him roared out, their voices piercing through the clouds. How could they not be excited to see their own great emperor so powerful? This was a completely invincible stance that could crush all power. Divine General Mystic Dragon, who was known to be undefeatable, had been killed with a single strike. One could imagine how powerful he was. The elder and the others narrowed their eyes and took a deep breath. Based on this, they weren't facing a great emperor with a helper, but a great emperor who was terrifyingly powerful himself. Xian Long. The mystic tiger divine general screamed at the top of his lungs. His heart was about to explode at this moment. His eyes were bloodshot, and his heart was about to explode. How could he not be angry that his good friend, whom he had fought alongside for so many years, had died in front of him? I want you dead. The mystic tiger divine general roared angrily as the divine tiger blood in his body began to burn. The white tiger phantom behind him roared crazily as though it was about to materialize. Its strength grew stronger and stronger, his body quickly swelled up, and his hair grew thicker and thicker. His eyes turned a frightening green. Even in broad daylight, it could emit a green light. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts when they saw it. His physique quickly grew to twice its original size. Now, it was more than 100 feet tall and had become a small mountain. Especially when he was floating in the air, he looked like a small mountain flying in the air. Yi Tianyun didn't waste time with him and slashed his sword at the mystic tiger divine general. A sword light streaked across the mystic tiger divine general's body at an incredible speed. The mystic tiger divine general paused for a moment, and when he found that there was nothing wrong with his body, he laughed and said, "This garbage attack is useless against me." After going berserk, his strength and defense had greatly increased, but the side effect was equally shocking. You know nothing about my strength. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. No matter how powerful a Spirit King stage expert was, he was nothing but trash in front of him. Is that so? Then let me see. The mystic tiger divine general didn't even finish his words when his body split in half from the middle, just like the mystic dragon divine general before. A large amount of blood poured down from the sky like a waterfall, dyeing the ground red. Following that, the huge body collapsed from the sky with a look of disbelief in its eyes, causing a cloud of dust to rise from the ground and swirl in all directions. Another divine general died, and his fate was the same as the mystic dragon divine general. This time, the mystic tiger divine general was well prepared, and he even used his strongest power, but the result was the same as before. He was still cut in half. Ding! Successfully killed the mystic tiger divine general. Reward, 199 million EXP, 12,000 crazy point, 1,400 SPS. Reward, white tiger break, white tiger possession. Reward, white tiger skin, white tiger bloodline, 3rd grade, white tiger claw. The mystic tiger divine general didn't drop any accessories, which made Yi Tianyun a little disappointed, but overall, it was okay. Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. The guards behind Yi Tianyun cheered again. They hadn't seen Yi Tianyun fight before, so they didn't know how strong he was. Now, they knew that the Great Emperor was the strongest existence, and they didn't fear the World Dragon Empire at all. It's a pity, if the World Dragon Empire's 5 kings came, I could kill them all. Yi Tianyun sneered. He waited here for a long time, but no one came to help him. Even after killing 2 spirit kings, no one came to help him. This proved that there were only 2 spirit king stage experts, which was too little. The old man's face turned pale, and he immediately turned around and fled. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. But the moment he turned around, 2 of them looked at Yi Tianyun, and their bodies suddenly froze. Let's go. One of the void spirit stage cultivators shouted. But as soon as he shouted, 2 swords pierced through his body, and he looked up in disbelief. The one who pierced through his body was not someone else, but his companion. You. After shouting twice, he completely stopped breathing. When he died, he was filled with resentment. He did not expect to die in the hands of his own people. He didn't know that his companion didn't want to do this, but Yi Tianyun manipulated them to do this. Chapter 587. The 2 divine generals had easily killed them as if they were chopping melons and vegetables. This scene made the ministers and guards feel even more respect, and their reverence was even more endless. Looking at Yi Tianyun's eyes, they are more respectful and loyal than before. Only those who were strong could be respected. Without strength, it was impossible for them to be completely convinced. Yi Tianyun's power had answered their belief. They believed that Yi Tianyun would definitely win, protect them, and guard the entire Heavenly Clouds Empire. Now that Yi Tianyun succeeded, it shocked the entire Heavenly Clouds Empire. They believed that this news would soon spread throughout the mortal world, and everyone would be shocked by it. The fact that the World Dragon Empire's army was killed by Yi Tianyun at the gate of the mortal world was undoubtedly tantamount to increasing their prestige. Letting them officially become the Empire's emperor was equivalent to telling everyone that Yi Tianyun could kill even Spirit King stage expert. Who wouldn't dare to recognize the Heavenly Clouds Empire? Both Divine General Shenlong and Divine General Shen, who were generals who had won many battles, yet they were killed by Yi Tianyun. This was enough to shock a large number of empires. It seems that this news will soon spread throughout the mortal world. I wonder how the World Dragon Empire will feel when that happens. Yi Tianyun sneered. He had already sentenced the World Dragon Empire to death. Even if they didn't come looking for him, Yi Tianyun would go looking for them. If Yi Tianyun wasn't strong enough, he would definitely be killed by the 2 divine generals. Vengeance would always be his motto. He would never let go of the World Dragon Empire. After a little reorganization, he would immediately go to the World Dragon Empire alone. Then, he followed Yi Tianyun back to the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation with the 2 Void Spirit experts and asked them about their situation, especially the old man from the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation. After returning to his room, Yi Tianyun sat on the chair and looked at them leisurely. He even poured himself a cup of fragrant tea and slowly sipped it. On the contrary, the 2 of them obediently stood where they were, looking at him with frightened eyes, unable to utter a single word. I almost forgot. I'll let you say a few words first. Yi Qianyun waved his hand and gestured for the lackey of Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom to speak first. You, what kind of trick is this? I advise you to let me go, otherwise, if the Holy Master comes, you'll definitely die. The old man had just regained the ability to speak, and he immediately began to threaten him. Pa! Yi Qianyun slapped him with the back of his hand, causing his mouth to be filled with blood. Who knew how many of his teeth had been knocked out? It wasn't that he didn't respect his elders, but that this fellow didn't deserve it at all. Let's not talk about whether or not your Holy Master can kill me for now. The key is whether or not your Holy Master can come up here. Yi Qianyun looked at him calmly. You, how did you know? The old man was taken aback. He still thought that Yi Qianyun didn't go down there, so he didn't know about the situation down there. Of course I know, I just came up from the bottom not long ago, and I killed 5 of your Spirit King stage experts, including Ming Chen. Yi Qianyun said as he slowly took a sip of his tea. You killed them? This is impossible, it was obviously someone else who killed them. The old man was shocked, but in his heart, he already believed Yi Qianyun's words. 2 divine generals were easily killed by Yi Qianyun, so killing 5 Spirit King stage experts in a row shouldn't be a big problem. But he doesn't admit it, he still thinks that Yi Qianyun is lying. Whether you believe me or not, it has nothing to do with me. Yi Qianyun said indifferently. Now, I want to ask you, what is the Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom's plan? Yi Qianyun lightly pointed at the old man, and the old man immediately blurted out. The Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom's plan is very simple. Since they can't come up here, and ordinary Spirit King stage experts can't do any harm to you, they suspect that you have a powerful backer. Therefore, they want to use the power of this continent to attack you. They want to regain the ownership of this continent and completely control the heavenly boundary continent. The old man told Yi Qianyun everything in detail. It was better than soul-searching. Soul-searching can only get a little information at most, and it's very likely that the other party will become a fool if he doesn't find anything. Yi Qianyun told Yi Qianyun everything that was asked. After he finished, the fear in the old man's eyes increased even more. He couldn't help but want to commit suicide, but he didn't even have the ability to do so. The control of the Netherworld continent and the heavenly boundary continent. For a long time, they have been eyeing this continent covetously. What is it? Yi Qianyun looked up at the old man and stopped drinking the tea in his hand. He could vaguely guess a few things, and it was not simple. I don't know about this. Legend has it that there is a divine king's supreme treasure between these 2 continents, but I don't know the details. The Holy Lord's order is to seize these 2 continents, including the earthly boundary continent. The old man said truthfully. That's right, with your identity, what can you know? Yi Qianyun touched his chin. Although he didn't know the details, he roughly said that there may be a divine king's supreme treasure. The supreme treasure left by the divine king is likely to be a high-grade divine tool. How can such a thing not be tempted by the Holy Lord? If they want to break through to the divine king stage, they will need this kind of treasure even more. Moreover, once they have a divine king's supreme treasure, who would dare to stop them? You, what kind of demonic technique did you use to make me say this? The old man shouted loudly. He wanted to commit suicide, but he couldn't do it. You don't have to worry about that. You will soon be a dead man anyway. Yi Qianyun waved his hand and made the old man shut up. At the same time, he asked the other void spirit stage cultivator. He was an expert of the World Dragon Empire. Although he wasn't one of the main forces, he was the one who cleaned up the mess. What he said was basically that after the 2 divine generals captured the 2 continents, he would temporarily manage the Heavenly Clouds Empire. But who knew that the ending was not like that, but the Heavenly Clouds Empire was destroyed. So that's how it is. Yi Qianyun slowly stood up and looked at them indifferently. That's enough, I have learned everything I need to know. Go out and explode yourselves, I don't want to dirty my hands by killing you here. As soon as he said that, they immediately turned around and flew outside. Soon, they exploded each other in the sky, making a deafening sound that echoed throughout the area. It's almost time to go. World Dragon Empire, huh? Let me see how strong you are. Chapter 588. The news of the war in the heavenly cloud's imperial capital spread like wildfire. In fact, there were many spies who were watching the war from the sidelines. Many empires wanted to see what would happen to the heavenly cloud's empire, so they sent their spies to investigate. However, the result was shocking. The heavenly cloud's empire was fine, but 2 of its divine generals were killed. One empire with 5 kings instantly became one empire with 3 kings. This was a heavy loss. Many empires who thought that the heavenly cloud's empire was doomed were shocked and angry at the same time. They didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be so powerful. They didn't expect him to be able to kill such a powerful spirit king stage expert. If the World Dragon Empire compromised, Yi Tianyun would be able to take over the World Dragon Empire. They didn't give Yi Tianyun any face at all. If the World Dragon Empire was overthrown, they didn't know what would happen to Yi Tianyun. If Yi Tianyun got angry, they would be doomed. They didn't dare to go to the World Dragon Empire to express their goodwill. If the Heavenly Clouds Empire couldn't stop the anger of the World Dragon Empire, they would also be doomed. However, remaining neutral was also a worse choice. After all, no matter which side won, they would still end up in the worst situation. Now it's about choosing which empire to support. This is the battle for the First Empire. If Yi Tianyun wins, the First Empire will be replaced. At that time, some of the smaller empires would be miserable. If Yi Tianyun won, they wouldn't feel any pressure at all. In fact, they would even get a lot of benefit. But if they lost, the World Dragon Empire would definitely wipe them out. Although Yi Tianyun was shocked this time, there were still a few empires who chose to side with Yi Tianyun. They still chose to stand with the World Dragon Empire. The World Dragon Empire's foundation was too strong. It had been established for thousands of years. How could its foundation be weak? Although 2 of its divine generals were killed, they believed that the World Dragon Empire was still invincible. The so-called one empire with 5 kings was enough to deceive ordinary forces, but the other empires didn't believe it. The World Dragon Empire occupied the continent with the best resources, the richest spiritual energy, and enjoyed the best inheritance. Rumor had it that it had connections with some god kingdoms, whether it was the Netherworld or the Heaven Realm. Under such circumstances, who would choose to stand on Yi Tianyun's side? However, there were still a few empires who chose to bet on the Heavenly Clouds Empire, but they were all small empires. I heard that the mysterious Soul Empire is supporting the Heavenly Clouds Empire. They are too young to bet on the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Yes, the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor is very powerful, but he is just one person. If he dies, the Heavenly Clouds Empire will surely lose. Yes, the 2 divine generals are dead, but there are still other experts holding the fort. After all, the Heavenly Clouds Empire's Great Emperor was dead. It's just an empty shell. The spirit race's forces aren't bad, but they've already declined. There's no point in doing so. After hearing the news, the empires that supported the World Dragon Empire ridiculed the forces that supported the Heavenly Clouds Empire, thinking that they had made the stupidest decision in history. Those who chose to stand on the Heavenly Clouds Empire's side immediately began to support the Heavenly Clouds Empire. They even declared that if the Heavenly Clouds Empire invaded the Heavenly Clouds continent, they would be attacked by the Heavenly Clouds Empire. It was really bold of them to express their goodwill at this critical moment. However, their forces weren't that strong, and they still chose to bet on the Heavenly Clouds Empire. They didn't know where they got their courage from. When Yi Tianyun learned about it, he just smiled and didn't say anything. Since someone was willing to stand on his side, he would naturally give them benefits after the war. He would never mistreat his friends who stood on his side. As for those who stood on his side, the consequences were obvious. While the outside world was in an uproar, the World Dragon Empire was also in an uproar. How could the World Dragon Great Emperor not feel sad about the death of his 2 divine generals? Is this kid really that powerful? The World Dragon Great Emperor's face turned pale. He knew that Yi Tianyun was very powerful, and that's why he sent 2 great divine generals to besiege Yi Tianyun. Even if Yi Tianyun was at the 8th layer Spirit King stage, he would be able to kill Yi Tianyun. Wasn't that giving face? Who knew that the 2 divine generals would be easily killed by Yi Tianyun? According to the news that came back, the entire World Dragon Empire was shocked. Even the former emperor of the World Dragon Empire was forced out of his seclusion room. In addition to the death of 2 divine generals, it also meant that they provoked a monster. Chen, you're too reckless. You've caused the death of our 2 divine generals. You're being irresponsible to the World Dragon Empire. The old man at the side was extremely old, as if he had 1 foot in the coffin. However, his eyes were surging with vigor, which was completely disproportionate to his body. He was the former emperor of the World Dragon Empire, and his name was Chen Xian. As for the current World Dragon Great Emperor, his name was Chen Chen. As long as one became a Great Emperor, he would be given another title, which was the World Dragon Great Emperor. I know. But according to the information I gathered, the other party's cultivation is at most at the 2nd or 3rd layer Spirit King stage. Who knew? Chen Chen said with a pained expression. Who knew that the information he gathered would be so inaccurate? The mistake is a foregone conclusion. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's see how we can make up for it, Chen Xian said coldly. Even if he is a dragon, he still has to stay where he is. He doesn't have the final say in the mortal world, but the World Dragon Empire. No matter who is behind him, we will let the Heavenly Clouds Empire and the whole mortal world know that the World Dragon Empire is still the strongest. Even the Heaven Primordial Empire has to step aside. That's right. Chen Chen's eyes flashed. Their foundation wasn't that simple. Then Imperial Father, what should we do now? It's very simple. We will personally lead the 2 guardian divine dragons to destroy the Heavenly Clouds Empire, Chen Xian said with a sneer. We will let the world know that the World Dragon Empire is not to be messed with. Especially those empires that chose to support a kid who hasn't even grown his hair yet. Only by using bloody means could the world know how strong they were. If they stayed at home all the time, who would know how strong they were? Great. Chen Chen said excitedly. What about the Supreme Old Ancestor? There is no need to alarm the Old Ancestor. Unless it's a matter of life and death, he won't come personally. Chen Xian shook his head and said with a sneer. If we can't even deal with him, then our World Dragon Empire is really useless. Yes, we, father and son, will definitely kill him with our sword. Chen Chen nodded and immediately came up with a countermeasure. Before they could discuss the countermeasures, Yi Tianyun flew to the World Dragon Empire alone. He didn't even need to wait for them to attack. Chapter 589. Hey! Someone is flying over there. Who is it? Are you hallucinating? I don't see anyone. Bullshit. Look carefully. Someone is flying over there. The guards on the World Dragon Imperial Capital's city wall pointed into the distance. When the guards took a closer look, they realized that someone was flying towards them at high speed. That person was getting closer and closer. Warning. Warning. You must land within 50 miles of the World Dragon Imperial City. You are not allowed to fly. If you dare to fly without permission, you will be killed. The World Dragon Empire was overbearing. To them, as long as one was not a minister, flying in the World Dragon Imperial City was a crime punishable by death. To be more precise, other than the cultivators of the World Dragon Empire, no one was allowed to fly in the World Dragon Imperial City. Otherwise, they would be killed. There were 3 Void Spirit stage experts on the city wall. If the guards were so strong, one could imagine how strong the people inside the city were. The World Dragon Empire was like a divine kingdom in the mortal world. The difference between them and the other empires was too huge. It was because they were so strong that they were able to restrict all the cultivators who were not from the World Dragon Empire to follow their own rules. However, the warning did not work on the cultivators who were flying towards them. The rest of the cultivators had already landed on the ground and started to walk. However, there was one person who was flying towards them. His speed did not slow down at all. He flew into the city wall at an extremely fast speed. He is flying so fast. I think he is at the Void Spirit stage. Is this his first time coming to the World Dragon Imperial City? Hee. No matter what, this kid is going to die. He thinks he is invincible. How dare he fly in the city wall? Unless he has a flying permit. Are you stupid? If he has a flying permit, do you think the guards will warn him? They looked at the cultivators who were getting closer and closer to the city wall with a gloating expression on their faces. They were ready to witness a good show where the cultivators would be killed on the spot. The World Dragon Empire kept its word. Anyone who flew in without a permit would be killed without mercy. Prepare to attack. The guard's face turned cold and he quickly signaled his companions to take out their weapons. He also took out a long spear and flew out of the city wall. The 3 Void Spirit stage experts were preparing to intercept an intruder. Who would have thought that as soon as he flew out, he would see a ray of light shooting towards him. It streaked across the sky at lightning speed, heading straight for the thick city gate. Dodge. The guards' expressions changed. At such a close distance, they discovered that the power rushing toward them was extremely terrifying, making them feel an incomparable pressure. This feeling was even more terrifying than facing a divine general. Under such circumstances, they tried to run, but it was too late. The ball of light smashed into the city gate like a meteor. As soon as it came into contact with the city gate, a ray of light shot up into the sky and covered half of the World Dragon Empire. Everyone's eyes were immediately blinded by the light, and they could only shut their eyes quickly. This light was simply too dazzling, and it was impossible to look at it directly. As soon as they closed their eyes, a deafening sound exploded in their ears. The cultivators who were near the city gate were blown away by the explosion, and a terrifying tornado was formed. The guards who were unable to escape in time were instantly engulfed by the tornado. After the complete eruption, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Even the entire World Dragon Imperial capital was shaking violently. The array was activated, and layers of defensive arrays were set up. However, it did not last long before the defensive array was crushed, and an even more violent explosion could be heard from hundreds of miles away. Boom! After the explosion was slightly suppressed, it was finally released. Previously, it hit the defensive array, but this time, it hit the city wall. Following that, countless boulders were sent flying like meteorites, crashing down in all directions. Everyone was so frightened that their faces turned pale. They screamed and fled in all directions. When these boulders landed on the ground, a huge wave was created, and a huge pit was formed on the ground. Many experts were sent flying away by the shockwave, and they were either killed or injured. After a while, the light finally disappeared. The people in the distance looked in the direction of the explosion and found that the unbreakable city gate was blown away. The towering city gate was now a pile of ruins, and it looked terrible. The most important thing was that the defensive array was destroyed. This was a Grandmaster-level defensive array, and it was blown away just like that. The defensive array is broken, and the city wall is destroyed. The Imperial capital is invaded. Who dares to do this? This is the World Dragon Empire's capital. This is crazy. The unbreakable city wall was blown away just like that. What the hell is going on? The cultivators inside were shocked, and the cultivators outside who were mocking them before were even more shocked. They saw a figure flying in the air without any injuries, but the city gate was destroyed. The 3 guards were nowhere to be seen. They had probably been turned into ashes by the shockwaves, leaving not even a speck of dust behind. God, who did the World Dragon Empire provoke? This power is too terrifying. Could it be the legendary Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor? Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor? The cultivators outside screamed and jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on. They were so scared that they hurriedly retreated. The Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor's arrival meant that he was going to attack the World Dragon Empire. This place would soon become a battlefield, and they didn't dare to stay here any longer. Yes, it might be the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. He is the only one who dares to go against the World Dragon Empire. Let's retreat first. They quickly retreated one by one. Some of them didn't want to retreat immediately and wanted to see the power of the World Dragon Empire. They wanted to see if Yi Tianyun would win, or if he would be killed here. World Dragon Great Emperor, come out now. The young man standing on the ruins of the city wall was Yi Tianyun. He didn't disguise himself, and he still kept his face. He was less than 20 years old, but he had reached such a terrifying cultivation level. No one would believe it if they heard it. Many people would only think of him as an old monster. Otherwise, How could he be so powerful? Hearing this roar, all the cultivators who didn't know the situation immediately changed their expressions. At this time, they knew who was coming to kill them. It was the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. The World Dragon Empire didn't retaliate, but the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor came to kill them in person. They didn't know if Yi Tianyun had absolute confidence in himself, or was he just blindly arrogant after killing 2 divine generals? Most people thought that it was blind arrogance. How could one person really destroy the World Dragon Empire? Even if the city wall was destroyed, they didn't believe that Yi Tianyun could kill everyone. The prestige of the World Dragon Empire had always been deeply rooted, and no one believed that anyone could destroy it. Chapter 590. A large part of the World Dragon Imperial capital's city wall had collapsed, and the symbolic city gate was now in a terrible state. It couldn't even be seen that it used to be a city gate as it had turned into a pile of ruins. The thick gate was blown away, and no one knew where it went. Looking around, many houses in front of him were blown away, and countless stones fell down, smashing everything into a mess. The one who caused all of this was the newly promoted Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, and he came to the World Dragon Imperial City in person. World Dragon Great Emperor, come out now. Yi Tianyun shouted again, but he didn't go in, he just waited for them to come out. How dare you? A roaring dragon power came from a distance, and in the blink of an eye, it was already in front of Yi Tianyun, and it opened its mouth to swallow him. Get lost. Yi Tianyun waved his hand and smashed the dragon power. It turned into a whirlwind of energy that raged around him, but it didn't cause any damage to him. Although the dragon power wasn't weak, long-range attacks often had lower power, and this attack was nothing to Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun could easily deal with 400 to 500 million attacks with a single slap. Immediately afterward, 2 figures flew towards Yi Tianyun. The huge body of the dragon twisted in the air, and the golden dragon scales exuded a dazzling golden light, especially the 4 golden claws, which proved that it was a true dragon. It's the Imperial Guardian Divine Dragon, and there are 2 of them. The guards and cultivators of the World Dragon Empire exclaimed, and their eyes were filled with endless enthusiasm. They were willing to believe that the World Dragon Empire could win because of the Imperial Guardian Divine Dragon. The World Dragon Empire was protected by the Imperial Guardian Divine Dragon for generations, and the Imperial Guardian Divine Dragon's cultivation was extraordinary, reaching the 8th or 9th layer of the Spirit King Stay. Just these 2 true dragons were enough to intimidate most of the Empire's forces. If these 2 true dragons were to make one round around the Empire's forces, they would probably be mostly destroyed. This was the reason why they were so confident. Moreover, there were 2 true dragons, one yellow and one silver, flying quickly. The World Dragon Grand Emperor and late Emperor Chen Xian were like immortals riding on a true dragon, soaring through the clouds. It was a sight to behold. This was simply too shocking. Normally, the Divine Dragon Protector would not be dispatched easily. Once it was dispatched, it would definitely destroy the target. That was equivalent to 4 Spirit King Stage expert. No wonder the World Dragon Empire was so stubborn. However, 5 kings in a country did not include the 2 true dragons. If they were included, there would be 7 kings in a country. World Dragon Great Emperor, 8th layer Spirit King Stage. Equipped with high-grade sacred artifact set. Has rich dragon bloodline in his body. Powerful enough to defeat a 9th layer Spirit King Stage cultivator. The martial arts he knew included True Dragon God Claw, True Dragon Roar, and True Dragon God Technique. Weaknesses: none. Overall battle power: 860 million, normal state. Former Emperor Chen Xian, peak of Spirit King Stage, wearing a high-grade Saint artifact set, has a stronger dragon bloodline, which is close to the true dragon bloodline. When he unleashed his full power, he could be said to be a half-step holy king. The martial arts he knew included the True Dragon God Claw, True Dragon Roar, True Dragon God Technique, etc. Weaknesses: none. Its overall combat power was 1 billion. Normal state: Yellow Dragon, 8th layer Spirit King Stage. Its scales are as thick as a high-grade sacred tool. It has 20% of the true dragon's bloodline. Weaknesses: none. Its overall combat power was 900 million. Silver Dragon, 8th layer Spirit King Stage. Its scales are as thick as a high-grade sacred tool. It has 20% of the true dragon's bloodline. The strength of the two dragons was almost the same. However, they didn't have the strongest dragon bloodline, including the yellow dragon. It looked like a true dragon, but in fact, it wasn't a true dragon. It was just a Jiao dragon with the true dragon's bloodline. Jiao dragon was a Jiao dragon, and a true dragon was a true dragon. The difference between the two was self-evident. They looked very similar. With 20% of the true dragon's bloodline, how could they not look similar? They would more or less look alike. As for their strength, if it was a real true dragon, it would be a lot stronger than them. For example, Yi Tianyun's combat power was 900 million, but a real true dragon's combat power was 1 billion or 2 billion. If it used its bloodline, it would be able to crush any cultivator at the same level as it. So, it's a Jiao dragon. What are you so arrogant about? Moreover, you have the dragon bloodline. If you don't have the dragon bloodline, you can still play around with me, but now that you have the dragon bloodline, how are you going to play around with me? Yi Tianyun sneered. The dragon god bloodline in his body belonged to the strongest level. He was the dragon god, and all the other dragons had to bow down to him. Unless they were from the imperial clan, then it would be a different story. Now that they had absorbed a little bit of the dragon bloodline, how could they call themselves a true dragon? He was simply a reptile. They quickly flew in front of Yi Tianyun and looked down at him. Their eyes were full of anger, but more than that, contempt. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, I didn't expect you to personally attack the World Dragon Empire and destroy the city gate of our World Dragon Empire. You are trampling on the dignity of the World Dragon Empire, the World Dragon Great Emperor said coldly. His eyes were filled with anger. The two divine generals had a good relationship with them, and they were also the Imperial Protector divine generals. No matter how much Yi Tianyun begs for mercy, they will not let him go, they will only cut him into pieces. Guilty. What crime? Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly. We were kind enough to invite you to the World Dragon Empire as a guest, and we will choose a day to ascend to the throne. We will surely prosper for 1,000 years. Who knew that you would refuse us and kill our envoy and two divine generals? You took our kindness as a donkey's liver and lungs. Now, you even came to attack our World Dragon Empire and destroyed the city wall. You still don't know your crime. The World Dragon Great Emperor tried to whitewash the matter and put all the blame on Yi Tianyun, which was a very nice way to put it. That's right. The Great Emperor has a good reputation for being easygoing, but you are biting the hand that feeds you. Guilty. 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 The cultivators on the side began to shout loudly. With two powerhouses here, of course, they wouldn't be afraid of Yi Tianyun. So what if you know your crime? So what if you don't know your crime? Yi Tianyun ignored these people. If you know your crime, kneel on the ground and beg for forgiveness from the two divine generals, and we will leave your body intact. The World Dragon Great Emperor said coldly. If you resist, we will not only kill you on the spot and sacrifice you to the two divine generals, but we will also massacre the Heavenly Dragon Empire and the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Don't blame us for not being merciful enough. The World Dragon Great Emperor said in a dignified manner, as if Yi Tianyun had made a grave mistake. If Yi Tianyun resisted, then the World Dragon Great Emperor would destroy the two empires. Chapter 591. The more Yi Tianyun listened to the World Dragon Great Emperor's words, the colder his eyes became. Sure enough, the World Dragon Great Emperor was a great empire that could turn white into black, and black into white. This was their upbringing. Their shameless behavior was not unexpected at all. In fact, it was completely within his expectations. It would be a big mistake if they admitted their mistake in front of him. At that time, their prestige would be greatly reduced. No matter what, they couldn't admit their mistake. It's just that the World Dragon Great Emperor made Yi Tianyun look like a bad person who repaid kindness with enmity, which made Yi Tianyun very unhappy. I always thought that you were shameless, but who knew that you would be so shameless? Not only did you collude with the heavenly netherworld divine nation to stop me from ascending the throne, but you also want to take down my empire without using a single soldier. Did you get kicked in the head? How dare you say such a thing in front of me? Yi Tianyun sneered. You can lie to your people, But you dare to say such things to me. You want to be a benevolent emperor, but you secretly do such despicable things. You are really shameless. He had already seen through the world dragon great emperor's true colors. They wanted to be benevolent emperors to the world. It was good to use this to rule the country, but it was just the surface. The inside was rotten to the point that it was disgusting. Wanting to take over everything with just a few words was just a pipe dream. Nonsense. Killing intent flashed in the world dragon great emperor's eyes. Yi Tianyun's words had obviously pierced through his inner thoughts, but the world dragon great emperor remained calm and said coldly, "It seems that you are stubborn. Don't blame us for killing you on the spot." "That's right. Since you are still so stubborn, then let us, the world dragon great emperor, enforce justice on behalf of the heavens." Chen Xian looked at Yi Tianyun indifferently. In his eyes, Yi Tianyun was already a dead man. Under the encirclement of the two great imperial guardian divine dragons, as long as it wasn't a saint king, who could escape from them? Could Yi Tianyun have the cultivation of a saint king? They could feel that Yi Tianyun's cultivation was not that heaven-defying. At most, he was at the spirit king stage. In the spirit king stage, Chen Xian was already at the peak of the spirit king stage, which was enough to suppress all cultivators below the peak of the spirit king stage, not to mention he had the divine dragon to help him. Enforcing justice on behalf of heaven, the former emperor is invincible. Enforcing justice on behalf of heaven, the former emperor is invincible. The cultivators below shouted with passion. Most of them were righteous people, so they were influenced by these words and shouted loudly. In the eyes of the world dragon great emperor was a benevolent emperor. Therefore, many experts joined the world dragon empire. Choosing to join a wise ruler would definitely be extremely beneficial to his future. Little did they know that the world dragon supreme emperor did one thing on the surface and another on the inside. You want to put on a good show in front of everyone, but I don't want to do that. As long as I have a clear conscience and treat my own people well, that's enough. Yi Tianyun sneered, "Unlike you, who is worse than trash? Stubborn. Kill him." The world dragon great emperor roared and immediately rushed towards Yi Tianyun on the yellow dragon. He wanted to shut Yi Tianyun's mouth and stop him from talking nonsense. If he continued to talk nonsense, his reputation would be ruined. As he rushed towards Yi Tianyun, the power of a human and a dragon fused together and reached the realm of human and dragon unite. Golden light shone on the ground and the whole world dragon imperial city. True dragon divine art. The world dragon great emperor's eyes flashed with golden light as he cast his strongest attack. He didn't know how strong Yi Tianyun was, but he knew that his cultivation was not low since he could kill two divine generals. Therefore, he immediately used his strongest attack. The true dragon as one turned into a golden bolt of lightning, streaking across the sky and striking down with unstoppable might. At this moment, the two of them were connected by blood as if they had fused into one. Both of them had the blood of the dragon clan, so their compatibility was naturally higher. Therefore, they could use the same move and crush the enemy with invincible momentum. In an instant, the battle power displayed by the body fusion martial art exploded and reached 1.9 billion battle power, which was terrifying. It was indeed a body fusion martial art. It could greatly enhance the strength of one's cultivation and reach a higher level. If it was used alone, there was absolutely no way to burst out such a powerful force. Only the attack of the body fusion martial art could burst out such a terrifying force. Retreat! Yi Tianyun roared and instantly released the dragon god's blood in his body. An extremely strong dragon power roared out from his body. The dragon power of a natural high-ranking expert of the dragon clan instantly suppressed the dragon bloodline in their bodies. A sense of fear immediately emerged in their heart. This was a sense of fear of the high-ranking dragon clan. His originally invincible strength was so frightened by this roar that he took a few steps back. However, when he suddenly retracted the attack he had thrown out, he ended up being injured. They groaned and immediately suffered some internal injuries, but their eyes were filled with fear. The aura of a high-ranking expert of the dragon clan fiercely suppressed their dragon bloodline. It was like a raging storm in their hearts. They couldn't believe that the young man in front of them had a stronger dragon bloodline than them. This This is the aura of the dragon god. Did he come from the heavenly realm? Emperor Chen Xian could feel the terrifying pressure coming from Yi Tianyun. If they couldn't use the dragon bloodline, then most of their strength would undoubtedly be suppressed. How could they fight under such circumstances? Their biggest advantage was the dragon bloodline. If they couldn't use it, their strength would be greatly reduced. But if they used it, it would be directly suppressed. Fear would automatically surge out of them, and no matter how much they tried to suppress it, it would be useless. This was the innate pressure of a high-ranking expert, and it had nothing to do with how much courage they had. The yellow dragon and the silver dragon's eyes were filled with fear. They actually retreated and didn't dare to attack Yi Tianyun. If they attacked Yi Tianyun, the power would be greatly reduced. At most, they could only use half of their strength. To Yi Tianyun, half of his strength was equivalent to 4th or 6th layer Spirit King stage, which was like cutting vegetables. With just a roar, they were forced to retreat. This scene was like a hand gripping everyone's neck, making them unable to shout. The invincible world dragon Great Emperor, whom they admired the most, was forced to retreat. "Are you from the heavenly realm?" The world dragon Great Emperor's heart sank. If Yi Tianyun was from the heavenly realm, then they really kicked an iron plate, and it was a very thick one. The heavenly realm's dragon race was at the level of a divine kingdom. What kind of kingdom has 5 kings? In front of a holy king, Yi Tianyun could kill them with a single slap. Although they couldn't relax, they could still send some of their strongest experts to deal with Yi Tianyun. Chapter 592. The suppression of a bloodline was very terrifying, especially at the level of the dragon race. If it was any other bloodline that was slightly better, the meaning would be very different in this world where there was such a serious natural class differentiation. "So what if I am?" Yi Tianyun sneered. He knew that they were a little timid. One's backer decided everything. If one had a powerful backer, even the World Dragon Empire would have to think twice before acting. Looking at Yi Tianyun's calm expression, their hearts sank. A person with such a strong dragon god bloodline was definitely not an ordinary person. There were plenty of ordinary dragon race bloodlines, but those who possessed the dragon god bloodline could be counted on one hand. Normally, it was impossible to even see one. Now, they saw one, and it happened to be the World Dragon Empire, which made them feel very conflicted. The cultivators looked at each other and did not know what was going on. They had already started fighting, but there was no movement after that. They did not know what was going on. "Young friend, how about we let this matter go?" the World Dragon Emperor suddenly said. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. They had been shouting to avenge the 2 divine generals, but now they had chosen to retreat. He had chosen to retreat. Many people were confused. It was normal that they did not know. If their level was too low, they would not understand a lot of things. As for the great emperors, they knew a lot about the underworld and the heaven realm, so they knew what kind of forces they would face. Although it was painful to lose 2 divine generals, they could only grit their teeth and swallow it. They could only choose to retreat in the face of a god nation. Yi Tianyun did not tell them his identity, but how could he be simple if he had the dragon god bloodline? Instead of taking a gamble, it was better to compromise and wait for the investigation to be done. The World Dragon Emperor had the same thought. Although he was still angry, he did not want to provoke a force from the heaven realm. If they did not go to the heaven realm, they might be safe. But if they did not go to the heaven realm, how could they become stronger? As for hiding in the underworld, it was meaningless. There were other passages between the underworld and the heaven realm, so the consequences of killing a descendant of the dragon god could be imagined. However, doing so would damage his reputation. There were so many cultivators watching. Compared to being destroyed by the god nation, they could only endure. "You want to let it go, but I don't want to." Yi Tianyun smiled coldly. How could he not know what the other party was thinking? It was obvious that the other party had seen his dragon god bloodline, which was why he chose to avoid it. If he hadn't used it, they would have exploded and flattened him. The faces of the World Dragon Great Emperor and the others darkened. It seemed like the other party wanted to go against them. "There must be some misunderstanding between us." Our world dragon empire has a good relationship with the dragon clan in the heaven realm. If we accidentally hurt our own people, it won't be a good thing. The world dragon emperor explained. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. It seemed like the world dragon empire had a good relationship with the dragon tribe. But thinking about it, it was true. Otherwise, how could there be such a bloodline? Ignore him. I don't know where he obtained this bloodline. Given our relationship with the dragon race, they'll definitely tell us if they send someone down, Emperor Chen Xian said coldly. The world dragon emperor was stunned for a moment, and then his eyes turned cold. Well, I almost fell into your trap. When I capture you, I'll extract the dragon god bloodline bit by bit. Their eyes were filled with greed. The dragon god bloodline was extremely rare, and it could be said to be the king's bloodline. Now that it had appeared in front of them, how could they not desire it? Once they extracted it and absorbed it, their strength would increase tremendously. Even in this place, they might be able to break through to the king sage realm. I have never said that I am a member of the dragon tribe, right? It's just your wishful thinking. Yi Tianyun sneered. It seems like you have admitted it. That's good, that's good. Even if you have the dragon god bloodline to suppress our strength, do you think that's all we have? The world dragon supreme lord roared, and a dragon spear appeared in his hand. It was covered with dense divine runes and inlaid with countless dragon scales. A terrifying dragon power was released from the dragon spear, and it was like a giant dragon that was about to take flight at any time, trying to break free from his hand. A divine artifact. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes, but it was within his expectations. As the number one empire, it would be too outdated if it didn't even have a divine artifact. Although it was only a low-grade divine artifact, it was still much stronger compared to a sacred artifact. Eat my spear. The world dragon emperor roared angrily. He gripped the divine spear tightly and rushed over on the yellow dragon. He merged with the dragon once again, but this time, there was an additional dragon spear. With the help of the dragon spear, his strength increased tremendously. More importantly, it formed an indestructible dragon power, which fused the three of them together and produced a small amount of antibodies. Under the effect of the antibodies, the suppression effect was greatly reduced. Chen Er's compatibility with the dragon spear has increased again. Defeat him, then extract the dragon god bloodline, and then. Chen Xian squinted his eyes and looked at Yi Tianyun from afar, and his heart was filled with excitement. He was excited at the thought of obtaining the dragon god bloodline. However, he did not stand at the side. His figure flashed, and he quickly flanked the world dragon emperor. He did not want to let the world dragon emperor fight alone. He did not want any accidents to happen, such as letting Yi Tianyun escape. This guy with the dragon god bloodline was like a treasure flying in the sky. The world dragon emperor is invincible. The world dragon emperor is invincible. The cultivators shouted again. Although they did not know what had happened just now, they were excited to fight again. A divine artifact is indeed a divine artifact. The power it displayed is indeed incomparable to a sage artifact. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed with desire. Although he had a divine artifact, who would complain about having more divine artifacts? Facing the world dragon emperor, Yi Tianyun put his hands behind his back and did not take it seriously. He looked like he was scared out of his wits and did not know what to do. Even if you have the dragon god bloodline, you will still die. The world dragon emperor's eyes were burning with passion, and he was ready to kill the young man in front of him. Your strength is not bad, but it is still too weak. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold as he raised his fist and punched the world dragon great emperor who was coming towards him. Dragon god fist. He punched out the ultimate move of the dragon god technique, and a huge dragon power instantly gathered in his hand. The sky immediately became heavier, and he could vaguely hear the roars of countless giant dragons as they bowed to him. The yellow dragon, who was suppressing his fear, once again showed fear in his eyes, but it was too late. Die. Chapter 593. Roar. A huge dragon god phantom appeared in the sky, followed by Yi Tianyun's punch. The dragon god was covered in red dragon scales, and its face was completely blurred. What could be seen was the overbearing phantom, enough to make 10,000 dragons worship it. Under this punch, The red pillar of light engulfed the lightning bolts that pierced through, and even engulfed a large area in front of it. Accompanied by a loud bang, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Chen Xian, who was behind Yi Tianyun, shouted. The terrifying power made his heart tremble. This is far beyond their power, reaching an even more terrifying realm. In an instant, everyone felt like the world was about to be destroyed. The earth shook, and several cracks began to appear on the ground. Many cultivators couldn't escape in time and fell into these cracks. This punch had indeed caused a lot of damage. It had a battle power of 3.1 billion, far exceeding the battle power of 2 billion with the support of a divine artifact. It instantly killed the World Dragon Great Emperor and the Yellow Dragon. After the explosion dissipated, the World Dragon Great Emperor and Yellow Dragon were paralyzed on the ground. The punch had penetrated their bodies, and they lay dead in the huge pit. They didn't even have a chance to breathe, they were directly killed by the punch. Ding! Successfully killed the World Dragon Great Emperor, gaining 230 million EXP, 1300 crazy point, 3000 SPS, obtained True Dragon Divine Claw, True Dragon Divine Art, True Dragon's Roar, obtained items, True Dragon Bracelet, High-Grade Sacred Tool, True Dragon Armor, High-Grade Sacred Tool, True Dragon Boots, High-Grade Sacred Tool, Dragon God Bloodline, 5th grade. Ding! Successfully killed the Yellow Dragon, gaining 230 million EXP, 1300 crazy point, 1000 SPS, obtained items, Dragon God Bloodline, 5th grade, True Dragon Scale, Rare, True Dragon Soul, Rare. Without mercy, Yi Tianyun instantly killed two great experts. He didn't show any mercy, he killed both of them in an instant. The World Dragon Great Emperor is dead. The cultivators in the distance looked over and realized that the World Dragon Emperor and Huang Long, who were lying in the huge pit, had their bodies pierced through. They looked like they had been dismembered. Even though they were wearing sage artifact sets, it was useless. They were still killed by one punch. Armor wasn't invincible. The unstoppable energy pierced through the armor and heavily damaged their bodies. The key was that the power of 3 billion battle power was invincible. This was a power that could only be released by a holy king. Yi Tianyun landed in the huge pit and quickly grabbed the dragon's spear. Without a doubt, this divine weapon was now his. He had obtained another divine weapon. As expected of a divine weapon, it's practically a waste for it to fall into your hands. When Yi Tianyun held it in his hand, the dragon spear let out a wong-wong sound and began to reject his power. The divine artifact already had a basic level of intelligence, so it would reject people other than its owner. Although the World Dragon Emperor was dead, his bloodline did not disappear, so the World Dragon Emperor was still its master. Suppress. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed, and the Dragon God bloodline in his body immediately rushed into the dragon spear. As soon as it rushed into the dragon spear, the power of the Dragon God bloodline was dispersed. How could the power of the World Dragon Great Emperor's bloodline resist his strongest bloodline power? So it was instantly crushed and successfully became the owner of the dragon spear. Chen Xian shouted in a hoarse voice. He never thought that the World Dragon Great Emperor couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. At this time, he realized that he was facing a monster, not an ordinary Spirit King stage cultivator at all. But it was too late to regret now. The World Dragon Great Emperor was killed by Yi Tianyun's punch. I will kill you. Chen Xian looked at Yi Tianyun angrily. The dragon bloodline in his body burned crazily, and his power rose crazily. He revealed all of his trump cards and unleashed them all. He also held a long sword in his hand, and it was actually a low-grade god artifact. He didn't expect the World Dragon Empire to have a second divine artifact. But if he thought about it carefully, it wasn't surprising. It wasn't surprising that the World Dragon Empire had a second divine artifact. After all, the World Dragon Empire had a good relationship with the other forces in the Heaven Realm. If he didn't even have this, how could he be in charge of the World Dragon Empire? Boom! A pillar of light soared into the sky, and the silver dragon beneath him ignited its true dragon's blood, causing its power to surge. He was indeed worthy of being an old emperor. Coupled with the fact that his cultivation level was higher than the World Dragon Supreme Emperor's, his combat power increased crazily. 2, 1 billion, 2, 3 billion, 2, 5 billion, 2, 8 billion, 2, 9 billion. Finally, Chen Xian's combat power stopped growing at 2, 9 billion, and he was even stronger than the World Dragon Great Emperor. This kind of power was terrifying, and it had reached an unimaginable level. This wasn't just his own power. Instead, it was the power of the silver dragon he was riding on. Originally, they could have been a little stronger, but facing the power of the dragon god's bloodline, their power was suppressed by a small part. They definitely didn't have such powerful combat power, and their combat power was at most 2, 4 billion, not 2, 9 billion. True Dragon Crescent Moon Slash. Late Emperor Chen Xian was filled with rage as he slashed down heavily from the sky. The heavens and earth changed color as a silver bolt of lightning tore through the void with a whoosh. The space in the mortal realm wasn't as stable as the heaven realm, and under this terrifying impact, the void started to crack. Like a mirror, it kept shattering and falling. Everyone was dumbfounded. Such a powerful force, as expected of their former emperor. The realm of Human Dragon Unite is indeed amazing, but no matter how beautiful your moves are, they are all trash in front of me. Yi Tianyun didn't take out any weapons, nor did he use any earth-shattering moves. He only used crazy mode. Just the crazy mode was enough to make his battle power soar to the state of 3 billion. If not me, who else can do it? Dragon God Fist. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. He leaped into the air and punched at the charging Chen Xian, not much different from before. The terrifying Dragon God Phantom appeared again, and everyone's expression changed. Even though this was the second time they saw it, they couldn't help but tremble. When the Dragon God appeared, many cultivators couldn't resist and knelt down. The pressure was so great that they couldn't move. Boom! The huge fist turned into a pillar of light, and Chen Xian's divine sword pierced through it. When the two collided, Chen Xian's attack actually split open a long section of the light pillar, but it was swallowed up by the terrifying light pillar in just a short while. Chapter 594. The terrifying beam of light pierced through the sky, and no one knew where it ended. Compared to this, they were more worried about Emperor Chen Xian's condition. They didn't know if he was dead or alive. In his previous life, the Great Dragon Emperor had been smashed into smithereens with a single punch. He couldn't have been more dead. Now, Emperor Chen Xian was also killed by a single punch. Could it be that he was killed by a single punch like the World Dragon Great Emperor? If that was really the case, then wouldn't he have reached the level of a Saint King if he had killed their Divine Dragon Protector and 2 Great Emperors with just 2 punches? No one would believe that Yi Tianyun reached the Holy King realm at such a young age. Cough. 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 Immediately, a figure escaped from the side of the beam of light, but it was only Emperor Chen Xian. The silver dragon didn't escape. Obviously, it was dead. Ding. Successfully killed silver dragon. Reward, 230 million EXP, 13,000 crazy point, 1,300 SPS. Obtained items, silver dragon soul, silver dragon scale, silver dragon ring, mid-grade sacred tool. The silver dragon ring and the true dragon bracelet that he had obtained earlier were both good items. Silver dragon ring increases defense by 10 times, strength by 10 times, critical hit rate by 10%. Consumes 5,000 crazy point to release silver dragon shield. Can resist the attack of a spirit king stage cultivator for 5 minutes. Cooldown time is 1 hour. True dragon bracelet increases power by 25 times, 20% critical hit rate by 10%. Consumes 5,000 crazy point to release true dragon power, increases power by 30 times, lasts for 5 minutes. Cooldown time is 1 hour. Good stuff. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. These were really top-notch goods. Originally, he had already reached the limit of his outfit. He couldn't wear all of the sacred tools. The bracelets had always been empty, and they were all ordinary trash from before. Now, they could finally be replaced. Yi Tianyun then replaced the ring and bracelet, and his combat power instantly increased a lot. Just these accessories alone were better than the previous set. Immediately, he shifted his gaze to Emperor Chen Xian. At this time, Emperor Chen Xian was in a very bad situation. Although he wasn't dead, he looked like he was half dead. Fortunately, his cultivation was strong, or else he would have been killed by Yi Tianyun's punch. Emperor Chen Xian had survived, but his steed was dead. He was no longer a threat. What power? Chen Xian floated down from the sky. He couldn't even stand properly. In his current state, it was already a miracle that he could even remain standing. At this moment, apart from anger, he was more occupied by fear. He had given everything he had, yet he still couldn't block this attack. What divine weapon? What dragon clan bloodline? They were all destroyed by this punch. It was undeniable that divine artifacts were very powerful, but in a situation where the opponent was extremely powerful, it was meaningless. This was like a child holding a divine weapon. Without any power, how could he fight against an adult? In a situation where the disparity in strength was too great, it was impossible to rely on a divine artifact to make up for it. The late emperor has been defeated. They were dumbfounded. Their only hope had been defeated just like that, and it was a complete defeat. All the people the World Dragon Empire relied on were dead. Only Emperor Chen Xian was left. Although he did not die, Yi Tianyun was completely fine. What was the difference between that and death? This. How is this possible? We are in the World Dragon Empire, the most powerful empire. Where did this brat come from? Where did he come from? Is he from the Heaven Realm? But are all the people from the Heaven Realm so strong? They felt a deep sense of powerlessness. From the beginning, they believed that the World Dragon Empire would win. No matter how many enemies came, they would be easily defeated. But now, they were completely defeated with just 2 punches. Are you a Saint King stage cultivator? Chen Xian's eyes were filled with disbelief. He was so young, yet he was already a Saint King stage cultivator. What's more, he was still staying here. After reaching the Saint King stage, there was no future for him to stay here. If he was half a step into the coffin, he could still stay here until he died. But the problem was that Yi Tianyun was so young, he was a fool to stay here. The spiritual power here was thin, and it was difficult to improve if one stayed here for a long time. Spirit King stage cultivators like them could still improve by staying here. After all, the resources of the entire mortal world belonged to them, so there was no need to fear that they wouldn't be able to improve. If Chen Xian was a Saint King stage cultivator, the most terrifying thing was that no one had seen him for so long. After enduring for so many years, he suddenly erupted, and his position as the strongest empire was gone. What do you think? Yi Tianyun said coldly. From now on, the World Dragon Empire will no longer exist. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for provoking me. I wanted to establish an empire, but you listened to the heavenly netherworld divine nation and came to destroy my empire. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Chen Xian's pupils shrank, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. If there was a medicine for regret, he would never do such a thing. But the matter was already settled, and it was useless to say anything. Immediately, Yi Tianyun didn't say anything more. He raised his palm and covered it with his palm, and a terrifying beam of light penetrated it. He wouldn't let go of Chen Xian, no matter who it was. He had always been a vengeful person, so anyone who dared to attack him should be prepared to die. Chen Xian looked at the oncoming attack, and he could only show despair in his eyes. He was unwilling to die like this, and he couldn't avenge his son. Friend, let's forget about this. At some point in time, a figure suddenly appeared at the side. With a light wave of his hand, the attack was dispersed, turning into countless specks of light that drifted away. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. He didn't use his full strength in this attack, but it had more than 1 billion battle power, yet it was scattered by a single slap. Chen Feng, first layer Saint King stage, wearing a high-grade sacred toolsuit, has the power of a saint soul. Old age, near the end of life, power decline. Martial arts, True Dragon God Claw, True Dragon Roar, True Dragon God Secret Art. Weakness, none. Comprehensive combat power, 1/8 billion, normal state. Saint King stage has almost twice the combat power of a peak Spirit King stage cultivator. The main reason was that Chen Feng was old, and his strength had greatly declined. Of course, he couldn't use his full strength. It was estimated that he used some kind of power to forcibly break through, so he could be regarded as a fake Saint King. Even so, his combat power was still very amazing. It had reached 1.8 billion, and if he used his full strength, his combat power would definitely exceed 3 billion. Sure enough, Saint King Stage's combat power was terrifying. Chapter 595. Yi Tianyun wasn't surprised to see the old man. The World Dragon Empire's foundation was amazing, and it seemed like the great old ancestor was the real foundation of the World Dragon Empire. Although the Saint King Stage was not in its complete form, it was still much stronger than the Spirit King Stage cultivators. Grand old ancestor, Emperor Chen Xian knelt down and breathed a sigh of relief. What was there to be afraid of now that his strongest backer had appeared? The great old ancestor wouldn't appear unless the World Dragon Empire was on the brink of destruction. Now that the great old ancestor had appeared, it meant that the World Dragon Empire was facing destruction. So many Spirit King Stage cultivators had died, and if one more died, who could support the World Dragon Empire? The great old ancestor had no problem in ruling the empire, but how long could he last? Even if he broke through to the Saint King Stage, he wouldn't have much lifespan left. The ministers of the World Dragon Empire were relieved to see the great old ancestor had appeared. Although the World Dragon Great Emperor was dead, they couldn't let Emperor Chen Xian die as well. If the World Dragon Empire continued like this, they wouldn't even have a single Spirit King Stage cultivator left in the empire. The great old ancestor has appeared. That kid is dead for sure. I heard that the great old ancestor has broken through to the Saint King Stage. I heard that old ancestor has already broken through to the Saint King Stage. This is the Saint King Stage. Saint King Stage. When can I break through to the Saint King Stage? Stop dreaming. If you can break through to the Spirit King Stage, you'll be able to thank the heavens. The cultivators on the side looked at Yi Tianyun with sad eyes. They felt that no matter how arrogant he was, someone would be able to subdue him. Sigh. The great old ancestor sighed deeply as he looked at the corpse lying in the big pit in the distance. Since it has already happened, why don't you just let it go? Great old ancestor, this is your grandson. He killed him. Are you going to let him go just like that? Emperor Chen Xian was stunned. He thought that the great old ancestor would suppress Yi Tianyun, but he didn't expect that the great old ancestor would choose to reconcile with him. Wouldn't this be the same as the old sending off the young, watching helplessly as the enemy left? The supreme old ancestor paid no attention to him. Instead, he looked at Yi Tianyun with a burning gaze and said in a deep voice, "How about giving me some face? If we really fight, I believe that no one will be able to gain any advantage, right? A Saint King Stage master?" Yi Tianyun looked at the old man and smiled. "After beating up the little one, you want to help me? I don't think your face is that big. If my cultivation was weak, I believe you wouldn't even give me a chance to talk and would directly kill me, right?" It wasn't that the supreme old ancestor didn't want to make a move, but he didn't dare to. His lifespan was coming to an end, and if he were to fight with Yi Tianyun, his lifespan might decrease by quite a bit. Although his heart was also filled with anger, he could sense that his opponent's cultivation was very strong. Even he couldn't deal with him easily. Under such circumstances, he could only choose to endure. "Ancestor, shut up." The supreme old ancestor said, "If I can't endure, I'm afraid that this little brat's cultivation is also at the Saint King Stage. If I fight with him, I may not be able to gain any advantage. The key is that he is much younger than me, so I definitely can't fight a protracted battle. The best way is to compromise for now, wait until you break through to the Saint King Stage, then we can join forces to kill him. So for now, no matter what, you have to endure. After you break through, the next time will be the day they die." The supreme old ancestor would definitely choose to send a message to Yang Kai instead of saying it out loud. Former Emperor Chen Xian gritted his teeth and looked at Yi Tianyun hatefully, but he could only nod his head and admit that he was right. He also felt that Yi Tianyun's strength was very strong, and if he used it, it wouldn't be much different from his own supreme old ancestor. In this state, he really didn't dare to fight at will. Just as the supreme old ancestor was about to explain the situation to Yi Tianyun, a figure had already rushed over. The domineering dragon god phantom appeared, and there was an even stronger phantom that enveloped the dragon god phantom. This phantom was Yi Tianyun's own phantom. After using his own phantom, the dragon god phantom turned into a red armor that covered his body, and his aura instantly increased several times. His combat strength soared crazily, and he was now in a state where he could kill even gods. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of them and punched towards Emperor Chen Xian. Everything was too sudden, and before they could even finish speaking, Yi Tianyun had already rushed over, shocking everyone. Looking at the incoming fist, Emperor Chen Xian's pupils shrank. Once again, he felt that death was so close to him. "Don't even think about it." The supreme old ancestor roared, and with a light flip of his hand, golden light flashed, and thick golden dragon scales quickly covered his palm. He was still a person who devoured the blood essence of the dragon race to cultivate, but against the dragon god bloodline, there was only one result: suppression. Scram! Yi Tianyun snorted coldly and punched out, not even bothering to dodge. Boom! The supreme old ancestor was sent flying, and he couldn't even block the attack. Following that, Yi Tianyun's fist came crashing down, smashing straight into Emperor Chen Xian's chest. No! Emperor Chen Xian raised his hands to block with all his might, and the desire to live welled up in his heart. But all of this was meaningless. He couldn't even block a single punch from afar, let alone a punch like this. Die! Yi Tianyun's fist blossomed with a dazzling light, engulfing Chen Xian's body. Boom! Another beam of light soared into the sky, penetrating the thick clouds, and then blasting the thick clouds into nothingness. Xian! The supreme old ancestor's eyes widened. He hadn't expected Yi Tianyun to kill his own son right in front of him. "You want to reconcile with me? If I didn't resist your attack, my empire and my people would have perished a long time ago," Yi Tianyun said coldly. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold. Yi Tianyun wanted him to reconcile with just one sentence: it was a joke. If he didn't kill the main person, how could he establish his authority? If he gave up just like that, the Heavenly Cloud's empire wouldn't have the right to speak anymore. Anyone who provoked him, no matter who helped him, would only have one way to go, and that was death. "You killed Xian. I will make you pay with your life." The supreme old ancestor roared, and the golden dragon bloodline in his body was released crazily. Thick golden dragon scales stacked on top of each other, and the power that erupted was far beyond the world dragon Great Emperor's power. The purity of the golden dragon bloodline in his body was even higher, and as a supreme old ancestor, it was only natural for him to have such power. However, Yi Tianyun wasn't afraid at all. He knew that killing Emperor Chen Xian would definitely anger the other party. He didn't regret it at all. What Saint King stage powerhouse? He would kill him with one punch. Chapter 596. The great old master was completely enraged. The golden dragon blood in his body began to burn as if there was no end to it. After the burning, his combat power increased crazily, and his whole body started to become younger. His originally shriveled body became elastic and shiny. Crack, crack, the sound of metal colliding came from the grand old ancestor's body, and in the blink of an eye, he turned from a shriveled old man to a mature and handsome middle-aged man. His white hair turned black, and his face became smooth and elastic. Even his height increased greatly, and he became a tall and handsome man. All of this caused the surrounding people to be flabbergasted. How could he suddenly become so young? He was clearly in a half-dead state, but he suddenly became so young and full of vitality. Yi Tianyun was not surprised by this. It was not that the grand old ancestor had really become younger, but that he had burned his blood and qi to forcibly restore his youthful state. Only in this way could he unleash his strongest power, but once it ended, his lifespan would be greatly reduced. If it was a protracted battle, he would die before the battle was over. This was the case for the grand old ancestor. For the sake of revenge, he chose to unleash his full power. "I want you dead." The grand old ancestor's voice became deep and charming, and a long spear appeared in his hand. This long spear was stronger than all the world dragon Great Emperor's previous divine weapons. Primordial ancient dragon spear, low-grade divine weapon, forged with the blood essence and dragon bones of a primordial ancient dragon. When attacking, It is like a crazed primordial ancient dragon, unstoppable. Another divine artifact. The entire world dragon empire actually had 3 divine weapons. Their foundation was terrifying. However, Yi Tianyun was not surprised that there was one more divine weapon, unless it was a middle-grade divine weapon. It was still a low-grade divine weapon, which was only ordinary to him, but to others, it was very terrifying. There are many people who want me dead, and you will not be the first, and you will not be the last. Yi Tianyun did not have any weapons in his hand, and he did not hold any treasures. He just faced the grand old ancestor. Very well, today will be the anniversary of your death next year. The Grand Supreme Elder's voice was as cold as the ice in a bottomless abyss. He raised the primordial dragon spear in his hand and pointed it at him. Take out your weapon. I'll give you a chance to fight me fair and square. Weapon? I don't need any weapons to deal with you. Yi Tianyun looked at the senior old master and smiled calmly. It wasn't that he was too arrogant, but he didn't need a weapon at all. Wearing the ring and bracelet was already enough for him to burst out with extremely terrifying power, so he didn't need any weapons at all. Moreover, who said that a Saint King stage master must be very powerful? The supreme old ancestor in front of him could only be considered ordinary. Even if he burns his blood essence now, his battle power will only increase to 3.2 billion battle power, and he doesn't need any weapons. Just by relying on crazy mode, it is enough to reach more than 3 billion. That was his previous state. Now that he wore the accessory, his combat power skyrocketed, reaching an astonishing level. Good, good, good. Instead of being angry, the Supreme Elder laughed. He gripped the desolate ancient dragon spear tightly and looked at him coldly. Arrogant. Then I will teach you how to be a good person. You will know that there is always someone better out there. Teach me how to be a good person. With your half-baked Saint King stage cultivation? It is reasonable to say that you are not even a Saint King stage cultivator. At most, you are at the peak of Spirit King stage, but you forcibly broke through, causing your lifespan to not increase, and instead, you are already half a step into the coffin. After this battle, whether you live or die, you won't be able to hold on for long. Yi Tianyun's words revealed the senior old master's situation, which made the senior old master's face change. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun to know so much about him. In a sense, he was a Saint King stage cultivator, but he wasn't. His combat power reached the standard, but his path was wrong, so he couldn't be a Saint King stage cultivator. When other Spirit King stage cultivators break through to Saint King stage, their lifespan will increase by hundreds or thousands of years, but the senior old master's lifespan will decrease. It's more than enough to deal with you. The senior old master's eyes became cold, and he didn't want to talk to Yi Tianyun anymore. The more he talked, the more he would expose his problem, especially now that he couldn't hold on for long. If he continued for too long, he would definitely lose his life. Boom. He stomped on the ground, and the primordial dragon spear became one with his spear. A primordial divine dragon merged with him, and a primordial aura was released from his body. Everywhere it went became a barren wasteland. The weeds on the ground withered in an instant. Boundless life force surged over and drilled into his body. The terrifying desolate ancient power made everyone's face change. If they were standing nearby, their skin would quickly dry up. If they stayed for a long time, they would become a dried corpse. When the senior old master sprinted over, layers of desert storms quickly rolled up on the ground, shrouding his body. At the same time, a huge shadow appeared behind him, and a golden desert dragon galloped on the ground. The golden desert dragon crazily swung its giant tail. The senior old master had completely merged with the golden desert dragon, and no one could tell which one was the senior old master. His battle power skyrocketed and suddenly exploded to 3.5 billion battle power. This is his ultimate power, and it's a shocking number. Kill him. Kill him. Avenge the World Dragon Great Emperor. Yes. For the dignity of our World Dragon Empire, the senior old master will kill him. This time, he is dead. Avenge the former emperor. One by one, they shouted in support of the senior old master. Interesting, if it's that easy, then it would be too boring. Yi Tianyun wanted to see what his current limit is. He didn't use any weapons, just his fists, and with a lot of power, He doesn't know how strong he can be. Dragon God Bloodline, activate. Crazy Mode, activate. True Dragon Bracelet, Silver Dragon Ring, activate. All the effects were activated, and after a large amount of Crazy Point was absorbed, his combat power increased explosively. 3 billion. 5 billion. 7 billion. 9 billion. 1 billion combat power. Finally, it stopped at 1 billion combat power. His fist condensed all the power in it, and the surrounding space trembled. The senior old master didn't even use his fist, but the terrifying power already spread all over the space, shaking the world. His whole body has been covered with dragon scales, and it looks like a thin layer of dragon scales stuck to his body. But such a thin dragon armor gives people a feeling that it's indestructible. You are just a worm, and you dare to be arrogant in front of me. Immediately after, he raised his hand, and with a bang, a large shadow immediately appeared behind him. As he waved his hand, the shadow also swung its giant palm and slammed down. Bang! Chapter 597. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor's power was very overbearing, but Yi Tianyun's power was even more overbearing. His huge palm slammed down from the sky and smashed the desert golden dragon to the ground. All the sand that had condensed together was smashed into pieces, and a sandstorm instantly enveloped the entire area. The sky was dark, and nothing could be seen. Everyone in the Heaven Dragon Imperial City was affected by this terrifying impact. Those who were slightly closer to the Imperial City were blown away by a strong gust of wind. Whether it was houses or people, everything was blown away. Those who were slightly further away could still feel the earth shaking, and the sky was covered by a layer of sand. It was pitch black, as if it was the end of the world. What the hell is going on? Everyone's eyes were focused on the scene in front of them. No one knew what the result was. They only saw Yi Tianyun's huge palm pressing down on their Grand Supreme Old Ancestor to the ground. They still didn't know whether their Grand Supreme Old Ancestor had lost, but in their hearts, they admitted that Yi Tianyun had won. That palm was too terrifying, and its overbearing power was unstoppable. If they were on the ground, they would have been smashed into meat paste. They didn't expect that there would be someone else in this world who possessed such terrifying power other than their Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. However, they didn't want to admit this result. They thought that their Grand Supreme Old Ancestor was fine and could still fight. Maybe he could even fight back and save the entire World Dragon Empire. When the sand and dust cleared, everyone could finally see what was happening in front of them. An incomparably huge palm print was on the ground, as if a giant had just pressed down with his palm. The terrifying power made everyone gasp in shock. It was really a power that could destroy the world with a wave of his hand. When they were looking for their Grand Supreme Old Ancestor, a figure stood up shakily from the ground. Only then did they see that it was their Grand Supreme Old Ancestor who had stood up. Grand Supreme Old Ancestor is fine. Grand Supreme Old Ancestor is fine. They cheered. As long as their Grand Supreme Old Ancestor was still alive, the World Dragon Empire would still have hope. However, when they could see clearly, the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor in front of them had become extremely old. Obviously, he had reached his limit. After using his most powerful killer move, his lifespan had basically been exhausted. Now, he had become an old man who was about to die at any time. This situation was like a hand strangling their necks, and they couldn't stop cheering. How could they still have the strength to fight? It was useless for them to live. Why are you so strong? Have you already reached the second or third stage of the Saint King stage? The highest old ancestor's eyes were filled with horror. This was a complete crushing effect. He didn't even need a weapon to crush him, so how could he not be terrified? Although Yi Tianyun didn't have a weapon, he didn't need a weapon, he couldn't help but feel terrified. If he had a weapon, the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor, he would have been killed by him. Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes. He thought that his one punch was enough to kill the opponent. He didn't expect the opponent to be able to withstand it. It's really a bit strong. However, he knew why the other party was able to survive. The shattered necklace was the best proof. This could be considered a protective artifact, a treasure that could withstand attacks. If not for this item, He would have been killed in a single punch, just like Emperor Chen Xian and the others. But it's over. Let's end it. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold. He didn't show any mercy to the old ancestor. The old ancestor looked like a kind man, but he was cruel and merciless. If he let the old ancestor go, it would be like letting a tiger return to the mountain. Immediately after, he punched out, and a chi dragon twisted its body and whizzed forward. Just as it was about to hit the ancestor, the other party ruthlessly crushed a jade pendant, and actually turned into a ray of light that flew towards the heavenly dragon imperial capital. Its speed is even faster than Yi Tianyun's attack, but Yi Tianyun dodged it easily. Heaven evasion, divine talisman? Yi Tianyun was stunned. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor really had a lot of treasures. He even had such a rare Heaven Evasion Divine Talisman. The Heaven Evasion Divine Talisman could increase one's speed by several times in an instant. It was an escape tool, but it couldn't last for long. Want to escape? Yi Tianyun stepped forward and chased after the Old Ancestor at a faster speed. He wouldn't show mercy. Stop him. Save the Old Ancestor. At this time, the guards quickly intercepted them. Even though they knew they couldn't win, they still wanted to save the Old Ancestor. It was clear that they were quite loyal. However, Yi Tianyun wouldn't show mercy. Anyone who stopped him would die. Scram. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. He waved his hand, and a chi ray rolled out. The guards that charged at him were blasted into a mist of blood. They were easily killed. When the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor flew back, he roared. In an instant, the entire World Dragon Imperial capital lit up. All the formations on the ground were lit up, causing many cultivators to exclaim. The Old Ancestor still has trump cards. He can still fight. I knew the Old Ancestor wouldn't admit defeat so easily. He will definitely win this time. The Old Ancestor is invincible. The Old Ancestor is invincible. They shouted crazily. They still thought that the World Dragon Empire was invincible. They didn't want to lose to a newly established empire. After a while, they couldn't shout anymore. The Divine Rune Grand Array on the ground froze them in place. A terrifying energy was constantly sucking out the blood essence from their bodies. This wasn't just a small portion, but everyone in the imperial capital was being crazily sucked out of their blood essence. In an instant, the entire World Dragon Empire was covered in a red light. The blood chi kept being sucked out of the Old Ancestor's body, greatly increasing his strength. Under the rich blood chi, the Old Ancestor started to regain his youthful appearance. He looked like he was intoxicated. This is the feeling. This time, I can finally put this formation to use. The Old Ancestor's mental state recovered a lot. He immediately opened his mouth and roared at the cultivator in front of him. Under the violent tremor, the cultivator turned into a mist of blood and rushed into his mouth to recover his blood chi. Bloodthirsty mad demon art. Yi Tianyun, who caught up with the Old Ancestor, squinted his eyes. He thought it was something special when he found out that the Old Ancestor had this unique skill. It turned out that it was absorbing the blood chi of others and turning it into his own strength. For a moment, the entire World Dragon Imperial capital was filled with screams. Those who could move fled, while those who couldn't could only wait for death. Many people looked at the Old Ancestor in fear. If this continued, they would all die. Old Ancestor, what are you doing? If this continues, we will all die. What kind of evil martial art is this? Is he trying to suck out everyone's blood chi? Their hearts were trembling. In the face of death, their hearts were filled with fear. Chapter 598. The crazy state of the great Old Ancestor scared everyone, and the image of the benevolent emperor that was established by the great Old Ancestor instantly collapsed. It should be said that the entire World Dragon Empire was benevolent. Even in the face of other empires, they would negotiate peacefully. Only when they were forced to do so would they start a war to calm the situation. Therefore, the reputation of the World Dragon Empire was so prosperous. It was because the World Dragon Empire had several benevolent emperors. Even if they did something wrong, many cultivators were willing to join them. In their opinion, this wasn't a problem at all. Now that the great Old Ancestor's true face was exposed, He wanted to sacrifice all the cultivators in the imperial capital and absorb all their blood essence for his own use. It seemed that the Great Array had already been set up a long time ago, and now it was being used. Because the World Dragon imperial capital was very prosperous, many elite geniuses stayed here, and now they were about to become the great old ancestor's food. One by one, they couldn't believe that the great old ancestor would do such a crazy thing, but the truth was right in front of them. The great old ancestor was crazily extracting their blood essence, and he couldn't stop it. The power of the Great Array was getting stronger and stronger, and it wouldn't take too long for it to drain their blood essence. At that time, they would become dry corpses, and they wouldn't die for a while, but they would die after a while. During this process, the most terrifying thing was that they couldn't die even if they wanted to. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, please save us, please, I beg you, please save us. The great old ancestor is too unscrupulous. He cultivates evil martial arts. Please kill him. One by one, they turned to look at Yi Tianyun, wanting Yi Tianyun to save them. Previously, they wanted the great old ancestor to kill Yi Tianyun. Now, all of them wanted Yi Tianyun to save them and kill the great old ancestor. This change was really fast. When they saw the true face of the great old ancestor, their faces changed, and they didn't dare to support him anymore. They supported the previous World Dragon Empire that was reasonable and took care of its people, not the current bloodthirsty mad demon. Cultivating evil martial arts was not welcomed by everyone. That was why when they saw the supreme old ancestor wanted to sacrifice them, they all chose to change sides. This was just too ruthless. He wanted to sacrifice everyone. Some were afraid of death, while others weren't. Previously, in order to protect the patriarch, many cultivators were completely unafraid of death and were completely loyal to the Grand Supreme Patriarch. Now, things were different. The wind direction immediately changed. It wasn't that they were afraid of death, but rather that they didn't like this kind of method of abandoning everything. For example, when they were escaping, they were willing to be meat shields, but if they were forcefully pulled over by the monarch, it would be a different story. With a single command, they would be willing to go through fire and water at any time, even sacrificing their own lives. However, doing so would be too cruel and merciless, which was not what they wanted to see. A bunch of trash. I've protected you for so many years, and this is my reward. What evil martial arts? The winner is the king, and the loser is the thief. When I conquer the entire mortal world, who would dare to say that this is an evil martial art? The supreme old ancestor looked at Yi Tianyun with red eyes and said, I didn't expect that you would force me to use my last trump card. I originally wanted to use it for the final breakthrough in my cultivation, but you forced me to use it. I admit that you are very strong, but under my demon blood array, do you think you can deal with me? His power rose in a straight line, and it was getting stronger and stronger. Originally, he thought that he had reached the limit, but now it was crazily climbing. After all, with so much blood energy rushing over, even if he couldn't absorb all of it, it was still not a problem to use it to attack. Especially under this meticulously prepared formation, its power was not that easy to resist. With the appraisal eye, the data was indeed jumping crazily. Compared to his previous state of being on the verge of death, he had now become extremely strong. His combat power jumped from 3.5 billion to 4.1 billion in one go. This was already quite crazy, and it was even with Yi Tianyun. Although the World Dragon Empire's array was very powerful, it didn't mean that it could provide him with a lot of power. Increasing his combat power by 600 million was already very terrifying. However, this was only equal to him, and he still had many trump cards that he hadn't used. In the face of such an existence, he didn't want to use too many trump cards. Therefore, he didn't even bother to use his weapon before, but now he had to use his weapon, otherwise he really wouldn't be able to deal with it. You are really crazy. You want to sacrifice the lives of the entire Heavenly Dragon Imperial City? You will be punished by heaven. Yi Tianyun glanced around. The life and death of some cultivators had nothing to do with him, and they were the ones who had shouted the most fiercely before. However, most of them were innocent, especially those with low cultivation, who were just hiding on the side. Of course, he didn't need to care about their life and death. He had no obligation to save them, and he had no blood relationship with them. Even so, he wouldn't leave them alone. They were just brainwashed, and they were completely deceived by the World Dragon Empire. More importantly, cultivating this kind of evil martial art was really disgusting. As long as someone cultivated this kind of martial art, it meant that they would always be thirsty for blood essence, especially the blood essence of geniuses. As long as there were geniuses in the sect, they would be captured and extracted. He always thought that only the Netherworld Empire or the heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation would cultivate this kind of martial art. He didn't expect that even the World Dragon Empire would cultivate this kind of martial art. In fact, this kind of cultivation method had always existed. For example, absorbing the blood essence of the dragon race, or refining elixirs. There was no difference between this kind of martial art and absorbing blood essence. However, there was one exception, and that was absorbing the blood essence of the same race. Once someone cultivated this kind of martial art, it was very likely that they would harm their own sect. This kind of martial art was really evil. Although it was evil, there were still many people who cultivated it. After all, the speed of cultivation was greatly increased, and the effect was too tempting. Who could refuse? Heaven's punishment. The highest old ancestor laughed and said, "What bullshit heaven's punishment? Heaven doesn't care about this kind of thing. To heaven, you are just a group of ants. Who cares about the life and death of ants? This is the law of the jungle. You are still too young." During the conversation, the highest old ancestor quickly gathered his strength. He kept talking because he was worried that Yi Tianyun would attack him. Yes, heaven doesn't care about this kind of thing. But today, I don't care about heaven. I am here for my empire. I am here to kill you. Yi Tianyun said coldly. Haha. You want to be a hero? Sooner or later, you will die in the hands of your own people. The highest old ancestor sneered. I don't want to be a hero. I am just responsible for my empire. Yi Tianyun grinned. He is doing this for Yi Qingxian and the others who have been supporting him. He can't let them down. Exchange. Evil Spirits Set. Chapter 599. Ding. Successfully exchanged the Evil Spirit set and recycled the Evil Dragon set. Another sound rang out. The Evil Dragon equipment set from before had been retrieved, and the Evil Dragon equipment set was not left behind. Of course, it didn't matter. The Evil Dragon set would never be used anyway. As long as he exchanged for stronger equipment, the previous equipment was basically useless. Now, the pace of exchanging equipment was much faster than before, and it didn't take long for him to exchange for stronger equipment. This way, he didn't even need to level up, he could just exchange for stronger equipment. Only martial arts were useful for leveling up. Some of the effects were amazing, and leveling up was even more useful. However, it required too much proficiency, so it was difficult to level up. Sometimes, he had to change to other martial arts. Evil Spirits Set, level 50. After wearing it, the wearer can transform into evil spirits at any time. All strength increased by 50 times, defense increased by 50 times, and speed increased by 10 times. When entering evil spirits mode, all attacks become long-range attacks, and they can attack anything within a range of 10 miles. They also have a burning effect, and critical hit rate is increased by 20%. The detailed data was listed in front of him again, and they were all extremely powerful. It would definitely attract countless people to fight for them. Originally, he wanted to choose between the two sets, but now it seemed that there was no need for that at all. After the Heavenly Clouds Empire became the first empire, he would receive amazing rewards. At that time, he would have 2 million sin points, which was enough to buy 2 sets, so he didn't have to worry about it at all. In a one-on-one fight, the Evil Spirit set was definitely stronger, so he exchanged for the Evil Spirit set. In fact, he didn't need to exchange for the Evil Spirit set to successfully kill the Supreme Old Ancestor, but the Supreme Old Ancestor was too strong now, so it was a bit difficult to kill him. In a situation where their combat power was equal, it was easy to fall into a stalemate. Now that the Supreme Old Ancestor was crazily absorbing blood essence, and if the battle continued, many people would be sucked dry. Although he had nothing to do with these people, it was still a good choice for him to advertise himself. If he wanted to become the first empire, He must have the World Dragon Empire as a foil. Previously, they were all righteous people, but now they were being publicized as evil people, so one could imagine how much it would affect their reputation. It seems like you want to be the hero of your own empire. Then you can go to hell first. When the time comes, I'll send them down to meet a great hero like you. The Supreme Old Ancestor laughed mockingly. He felt that he was determined to win this battle. While they were talking, the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor had already finished accumulating his power. He raised his hand lightly, and countless blood-red lights transformed into blades that wrapped around him. Like a blood-red lotus, it quickly closed in, wanting to completely block him. Each of the blood-red lotuses was filled with murderous intent. Terrifying screams could be heard from within, as if countless vengeful spirits were trapped within. Your dragon god bloodline belongs to me now. The Grand Elder's eyes were bloodshot, filled with greed and viciousness. No matter how strong you are, you can't escape from my bloodthirst formation. It was undeniable that the power of the bloodthirsty array was shocking. The entire World Dragon Empire had set up this array, and everyone's power was mobilized to attack Yi Tianyun. The effect would definitely be shocking. With the appraisal eye, his combat power skyrocketed, and it could soar to 4.2 billion. This combat power didn't mean that it was an offensive one. Sometimes, it was a combination of defensive combat power, and it would still have such an amazing effect. Swish! Yi Tianyun suddenly punched the blood-red lotus that was wrapping around him. An extreme beam of light penetrated through and hit the blood-red lotus. With a boom, a flower of blood bloomed, but it didn't penetrate the thick petals. The defensive power is really amazing. This was his strongest punch, which was comparable to 41 combat power, but it was still forcibly blocked. It didn't have any effect at all. It was completely blocked outside like a huge shield, blocking his attack. After careful observation, Yi Tianyun found that there were still traces of absorption. It seemed that a lot of energy had been absorbed, and it still had the ability to absorb. If he was wrapped in it, he would probably be sucked dry. It's useless. Don't struggle like this. Just obediently let me suck you dry. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor sneered, watching Yi Tianyun attack inside, his heart filled with endless pleasure. He liked to see the helpless look in the other party's eyes the most, especially when they were still struggling until they couldn't struggle anymore. This kind of torture was his favorite method of torture. Yi Tianyun quickly flew up, but the speed of the scarlet red lotus was even faster, and it quickly wrapped around him, completely sealing him inside. At this time, there was a big ball of blood in front of everyone. It was blood red, and there was a lot of blood flowing on it. It looked very terrifying. It was unknown how much blood had been consumed to achieve this effect. Presumably, there was an endless amount of blood at the bottom of the Dragon Emperor's capital, like a blood-red ocean. A group of cultivators who were fixed here were filled with despair, unwillingness, and anger. They didn't want to become nutrients for the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. But now, there was no other way. They were firmly fixed to the ground and couldn't move. Apart from using their eyes and voices, they couldn't move at all. They could only feel the blood in their body being extracted little by little. According to this situation, it wouldn't take long for them to be completely drained. Are we going to die? Scum. I didn't expect that the people we supported turned out to be evil cultivators. Wrong extermination. I heard that there is a sect that has been capturing people. Is it controlled by the World Dragon Empire? It's very possible. But it's useless to see their true colors now. The Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor is sealed, and there's no way to escape. We thought he was an intruder just now, but now it seems so ridiculous. Is there a savior who can save us? Their eyes were filled with sadness, but there was no other way. In the end, the blood ball completely wrapped around Yi Tianyun's body and began to crazily extract his blood. This was all in the imagination of the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying energy soared into the sky, bringing with it a frighteningly black flame that swept out in all directions. An unending stream of blood quickly ignited and turned into gas that drifted in all directions. What's going on? Chapter 600. Just like that, the unbreakable blood sphere was forcefully broken and ignited by the black flames. The originally indestructible blood sphere was ignited by the black flame. After the blood was quickly burned, it turned into a red blood mist that rushed into the sky, forming a thick blood-colored cloud in the sky. However, the most shocking thing was that the black figure inside the blood sphere just stood there. After the blood sphere gradually dissipated, a dark figure appeared in front of everyone. The figure had a pair of dark wings that spread to the side, and the blood near the wings was ignited. Even the air was ignited. No one knew what kind of flame it was, but it actually ignited such an overbearing and unbreakable blood sphere. Apart from the most eye-catching wings, there was also its huge, pitch-black body. Its strong body was incomparably sturdy, and its muscles bulged out, giving people a feeling of great strength. The cultivators watching in front were even more shocked by the appearance. The handsome face had a pair of domineering eyes, and the aura of looking down on the world was revealed. There was also a pitch-black armor covering most of his body. Pitch-black scales stuck tightly to his body, and it was like a soft armor wrapping around him. Under the tight wrapping, it was like a black tights on the body, outlining the explosive power. What is this situation? Great Ancestor was shocked. He couldn't see Yi Tianyun's figure anymore, but instead, he saw a Yi Tianyun that was magnified several times, but this Yi Tianyun had changed a lot. But the most shocking thing was the significant change in aura, and a sense of fear welled up in his heart. He had never felt such a terrifying aura before. It was definitely the first time. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be able to transform, and it seemed like this was Yi Tianyun's true body. He wasn't the only one who was shocked. Everyone else thought that Yi Tianyun was dead, but not only was he unscathed, he even became stronger. What kind of power is this? Is the heavenly cloud's great emperor really that powerful? Is this his true limit? What kind of bloodline does it have? How can it have such terrifying explosive power? I've never seen this race before. However, this aura is so strong and evil. It's like an evil spirits. Evil spirits? These words are so apt. But as long as we can defeat this grand supreme ancestor, we'll be our god. They didn't care what happened to Yi Tianyun. As long as they could kill the supreme old ancestor and rescue them, nothing else mattered. There were many evil martial arts, but it depended on how they were used. The supreme old ancestor wanted to sacrifice the entire heavenly dragon imperial capital's cultivators. There were at least hundreds of thousands of people, so such a cruel martial art was naturally not welcomed. If it was used to deal with demonic beasts, there would be no problem. So this is the power of the evil spirit suit. Yi Tianyun felt that his situation was incomparably powerful. Just the stacking of the effects alone was already incomparably shocking. 50 times the strength and defense, in addition to the special burning effect, this was definitely a godly equipment. In terms of grade, it was at least equivalent to the effect of a divine artifact. How could a full set of divine equipment not be powerful? 50 times the strength was just the effect, the intrinsic effect was equally shocking. He compared it with the high-grade sacred artifact set. It was more than 10 times the effect of the sacred artifact set that he had obtained before. Under the crazy blessing of the evil spirit suit, his current combat power had reached a terrifying 6.3 billion. This was an incredible value, an effect that was far from being able to achieve before. However, although it was 50 times the strength, the crazy damage mode could not be stacked on top of this. The crazy damage mode would only change according to the base and had nothing to do with the equipment. If the equipment was counted, it would undoubtedly be a very heaven-defying effect. Not to mention other equipment, just by relying on the equipment to stack the effect of 16 times, it was equivalent to the effect of 16 sets of equipment. Wasn't this equivalent to killing gods? In fact, of course, it wasn't that heaven-defying. It was already very terrifying to be able to stack the most basic value by 16 times. Moreover, this set of equipment could increase his combat power by almost 2 billion. Who could compare to him? It's time to end it. Yi Tianyun turned his gaze and looked at the supreme old ancestor not far away, causing the other party's breathing to stop, as if it was difficult to breathe. Die for me. The supreme old ancestor didn't sit still and wait for death. He quickly raised his hand and attacked. Countless blood arrows shot out, coming from all directions, and their speed was getting stronger and stronger. It's meaningless. Yi Tianyun gently raised his hand, and the surrounding void was instantly ignited. Countless blood arrows that pierced through were burned into gas. Not to mention hurting him, they couldn't even get close to him. After transforming into the evil spirits, he had extremely terrifying long-range attacks that could attack within a range of 10 miles. To put it bluntly, he could attack anywhere at will with a gentle raise of his hand. However, it wasn't a group attack, and he could only attack individually. The blood arrows that surrounded him were different. His body was surrounded by flames, so how could they get close to him? This power! The Supreme Old Ancestor's expression changed, but he didn't give up and roared, bloodthirsty demon sword. He stretched out his hand, and a large amount of blood turned into an extremely long sword. Soon, a long sword that looked like a ruby solidified in his palm. As soon as he held it in his palm, he slashed it down at Yi Tianyun. Endless blood gushed out from the bottom of the World Dragon Empire's capital and madly strengthened the blood sword. The blood sword that slashed down was quickly strengthened, and lengthened. In the blink of an eye, it was dozens of feet long, and a ruthless slash was enough to split mountains and split the earth. I said it's meaningless. Yi Tianyun lifted his foot, and everyone only saw a black light flash past. The speed was too fast, and no one could see how he moved. With 10 times the speed, who could see his movement? Bang, 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 wherever the black light passed, the evil blood sword would be smashed into pieces like a fragile piece of ice, shattering with a single hit. Before the Supreme Old Ancestor could react, the huge black body had already arrived in front of him, and his pitch-black eyes stared at him. Your power is too evil. The Supreme Old Ancestor was so stunned that he didn't know what to do. Instead, he said something funny. He planned to sacrifice hundreds of thousands of cultivators to deal with Yi Tianyun, but now he said that Yi Tianyun was evil. No matter how evil he is, he won't sacrifice his own people. Yi Tianyun sneered, and his huge palm had already reached out, piercing through the Supreme Old Ancestor's body. Then, black flames quickly burned him, and he was quickly ignited. Chapter 601. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor felt that his body was filled with flames, which quickly ignited his body and burned inch by inch. Intense pain came from the place where he was attacked, and then it quickly spread to the surroundings. This kind of pain was simply burning his soul, inch by inch, making him feel incomparable pain. More than that, the fear of death came from here. Let go, let go. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor stretched out his hand and slapped Yi Tianyun's body, but after this heavy slap, a terrifying force bounced back, causing him endless pain. Even if he was attacked, he could still use some of his strength, but under the attack, it was as if he had attacked the hardest thing in the world, almost crippling his hand. Don't worry, I won't let you die so quickly. I will let you feel the pain of death bit by bit. Yi Tianyun sneered. He had already cut off the connection between the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor and the World Dragon Imperial capital. The Great Formation returned to its original state, and many cultivators regained their freedom. After recovering, the cultivators sat on the ground, their bodies drenched in sweat, as if they had just been fished out of the water. A small part of their blood essence had been extracted, but it did not damage their foundation, so there was no problem. They continued to look up at Yi Tianyun, their eyes filled with gratitude, but there were more complicated looks in their eyes. Regret surged from the bottom of their hearts. The enemy that they had always rejected was actually their savior. This made them speechless, and they had even mocked Yi Tianyun a lot. They were really worried that Yi Tianyun would not save them, and when they were sucked dry bit by bit, he would not need to care about them at all. They only had themselves to blame. Yi Tianyun did not do this, and he still chose to save them, which made them feel the most complicated. I don't want to die, I don't want to die, the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor shouted hysterically. It was not easy for him to reach this level, and he was sitting above tens of thousands of people. Now that he was about to turn into a pile of ashes and dissipate in the air, he was very unwilling to see this result. Yi Tianyun said coldly, "Originally, your World Dragon Empire would have been able to keep your position. Who would have thought that you would choose to attack my imperial capital? Don't blame me for being merciless." A hint of regret appeared in the eyes of the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor, but there was even more resentment. All of this was caused by his descendants. Otherwise, how could he have fallen to such a state? I'll give you anything. Please, let me go. I have a lot of treasures. I'll give you anything. I'm willing to make you the emperor of this place. The supreme old ancestor started to beg for mercy. The fear and desire to live surged in his heart, causing him to beg for mercy. He did not want to die here. You think I'm lacking something that belongs to you? Yi Tianyun sneered. If you're dead, what wouldn't be mine? No, no. You can't do this. I have a secret to tell you. It's definitely a top-grade artifact. Not interested. Yi Tianyun wouldn't let him go. He wouldn't even know when he would be stabbed in the back. The World Dragon Empire was destroyed by him, and his descendants were killed by him. It would be a miracle if the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor was willing to let him go. Then the flame in his hand quickly burned and accelerated the speed of devouring the body of the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Actually, this flame was the inextinguishable flame, but it was a strengthened version of the inextinguishable flame, with an additional layer of the heretic god's power. If one were to touch it, they would not be able to escape. They would continue burning, never to be extinguished. I'm willing to be your slave. I'm willing to do anything. No matter what the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor said, Yi Tianyun was unmoved. In the end, the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor turned into a pile of ashes and scattered from the sky. The ashes didn't even fall to the ground. Ding. Successfully killed the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Reward, 800 million EXP, 50. 000 Crazy Point, 10. 000 SPS. Obtained True Dragon Divine Art, Bloodthirsty Mad Demon Art. Dragon God Bloodline, 5th grade, Golden Dragon Divine Armor, High-grade Sacred Tool, Golden Dragon Boots, High-grade Sacred Tool, Heaven World Secret Treasure Map, Rare. Ding. Successfully killed the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. Reward, 300 million EXP, 10. 000 Crazy Point, 5. 000 SPS, 2 Super Enhanced Lottery Roulette Ticket. 2 notifications popped up, which made Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. Finally, there was a reward for killing the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor was a Saint King stage cultivator. If there was no reward for killing the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor, it would be unreasonable. With the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor turned into ashes, everything was over. The strongest cultivator was dead, and the rest was meaningless. Moreover, most of them felt like they survived a disaster. How could they still have the heart to take revenge? It's already good enough that they didn't kneel down and thank him. Dead. The Grand Supreme Old Ancestor is finally dead. Is he finally dead? We're fine. We're fine. Is he? Is he our savior? They kneeled on the ground one by one, and they didn't dare to look at Yi Tianyun. Most of them felt guilty, so they didn't dare to look at Yi Tianyun, so as not to provoke his anger. Yi Tianyun didn't bother to argue with them. After looking around, he said coldly, "From today onwards, the World Dragon Empire will be taken over by our Heavenly Clouds Empire, especially the World Dragon Imperial Capital. We must destroy it. The bloodthirsty Great Array was everywhere, and it must be completely destroyed. The Great Array here was deeply rooted in the ground, so it must be uprooted. Otherwise, there was no way to destroy it. In this case, the only way was to destroy the entire World Dragon Imperial Capital. Moreover, Yi Tianyun wouldn't leave the World Dragon Imperial Capital as his own. Yes, most of them agreed with Yi Tianyun's decision to destroy the entire World Dragon Imperial Capital. This place was their nightmare, and they didn't dare to stay here any longer. They were worried that if they stayed here any longer, their blood essence would be completely drained. Although the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor was dead, it would still be troublesome if someone could control the World Dragon Imperial Capital. The news of the war quickly spread out, and many empires' factions paid attention to it. After the war ended, all the empires in the mortal world were shocked. All the empires panicked because they made a stupid decision to support the World Dragon Empire. The Heavenly Clouds Empire won. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor was dumbfounded. All the ministers were dumbfounded. The old man who accompanied the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor before was also dumbfounded. They thought that Yi Tianyun was too impulsive, but now it seems that it wasn't Yi Tianyun who was too impulsive, but they had greatly underestimated Yi Qianyun's power. Yi Qianyun's power was enough to destroy all empires. Great Emperor, I'm afraid we have to visit him in person, the old man said with a wry smile. Chapter 602. After the great battle ended, it was like a wildfire that spread rapidly in all directions, causing all the great emperors of the empires to panic. Those who didn't support the Heavenly Cloud's empire were terrified, but those who supported the great emperor were laughing their heads off. If it weren't for the news from the front lines, they wouldn't have believed that the Heavenly Cloud's empire would win. The key was that the Heavenly Cloud's empire could overthrow the entire World Dragon Empire with just a great emperor. 5 Spirit King stage powerhouses, 2 Imperial Divine Dragons, and a Grand Supreme Old Ancestor were all killed. The World Dragon Empire was reduced to a kingdom without any Spirit King stage powerhouses, which meant that the World Dragon Empire had completely collapsed. What one country with 5 kings? Right now, the Heavenly Cloud Empire only needed 1 king to sweep through the entire mortal world and be invincible. Quick! Go to the Heavenly Cloud's Empire and bring the best treasures. It's over. I don't know how the Heavenly Cloud's Empire will treat us this time. Why is the Heavenly Cloud's Empire so strong? How did he cultivate? This is impossible. How did he win? The great emperors of the empires were stunned, and some of them even slapped themselves in the face, wondering if they were dreaming. In fact, they weren't dreaming, but the World Dragon Empire was really destroyed. It wasn't just a simple destruction, but a complete collapse. After the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor's death was spread out, everyone chose to leave. Who would have thought that the Grand Supreme Old Ancestor would be so insidious as to build a bloodthirsty great array under the World Dragon Empire's capital? After the Heavenly Cloud's Empire excavated the World Dragon Empire, they found countless corpses buried under the World Dragon Empire. After all, the World Dragon Empire was destroyed, and no one spoke up for it anymore. There were still survivors of the Netherworld Empire, and they supported the Netherworld Empire's actions. Even if the Netherworld Empire killed 1 million people, they would still support it. Most of the people who joined the World Dragon Empire were righteous people, but they were deceived by the World Dragon Empire, so they quickly left after knowing the truth. Yi Qianyun took over all the territories of the World Dragon Empire, and no one dared to say anything. They could only watch him take over all the territories. Even though the comprehensive strength of the Heavenly Cloud's Empire wasn't as good as the other empires, they only had 1 Spirit King stage powerhouse, Yi Qianyun. Void Spirit stage experts were relatively few, but no one dared to make a move. The reason was simple. Yi Qianyun alone was enough to resist the power of an entire nation. No matter how many Spirit King stage cultivators there were, they wouldn't feel any pressure at all. This was a truly terrifying existence. There was no need for a large number of experts, just him alone was enough. Because of this, Yi Qianyun gained a nickname. Everyone called him the Invincible Yi. He was really invincible in the mortal world. Even the most powerful World Dragon Empire was crushed. Which empire could resist him? Unless all the forces of the empire gathered together, how could they resist? Even if they gathered all the empires to fight against Yi Qianyun, none of them were willing to do so. After all, if they really did that, what would be the benefit of fighting to the death? Great Emperor, the great emperors of many empires have come to pay a personal visit. A guard rushed in from outside, his face flushed with excitement. Although he wasn't here to greet him, he was just as excited. When Yi Qianyun ascended to the throne, all of them didn't think highly of Yi Qianyun, so they all chose to leave. But now, all of them came here with a lot of treasures. This undoubtedly made the entire Heavenly Cloud's Empire proud. They didn't think highly of Yi Qianyun before, but now they all came to worship him. Well, I'm busy, tell them to wait outside. Yi Qianyun glanced at the guard and didn't let him introduce all the great emperors. Yes, great emperor. The guard nodded and hurried out of the hall. Outside the hall, all the great emperors were waiting outside. When they saw the guard coming out, they all wanted to come in and greet Yi Qianyun. Unexpectedly, the guard came out and said, "The great emperor is busy, he asked you to wait outside." When he said these words, he felt incomparably excited. He had never thought that he could speak like this. The great emperors were very dissatisfied, but they only complained in their hearts. They didn't dare to say it out loud. Now that Yi Tianyun was equal to the World Dragon Great Emperor, who dared to disrespect the World Dragon Empire? Now that the Heavenly Clouds Empire had replaced him, it was equal to the First Empire. Sigh, one wrong step, and then another. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor shook his head. If he was given another chance, he would still choose the World Dragon Great Emperor. Who would have thought that Yi Tianyun was so powerful? Even the cultivators in the Heavenly Clouds Empire couldn't believe it. Isn't this Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor too arrogant? He actually let so many great emperors wait here. Isn't he afraid of us joining forces to attack him? Sure. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. The Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor is arrogant, but if you can defeat the World Dragon Empire alone, you can be as arrogant. That's right. If I don't like you, I will overthrow you directly. Join forces to attack him. If you want to die, don't blame me. Why do we have to risk our lives against him? He can kill 5 kings by himself. If we risk our lives and kill him, we'll be crippled. At that time, we'll be reduced to a third-grade force, let alone an empire. One by one, they glared at one of the great emperors and chose to leave his position. They didn't dare to approach him and isolate him. The great emperor was embarrassed, and the ministers next to him were scared. They didn't expect that their great emperor would say such a thing. If they angered Yi Tianyun, they were afraid that their empire would be overthrown. I just said it casually. The great emperor didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Many of the great emperors present hadn't seen Yi Tianyun's power, but since the World Dragon Empire was overthrown, who would dare to say a word? Even if Yi Tianyun didn't do it, he still had someone to help him. Who would dare to say anything? Even if they complained in their hearts, they still chose to wait outside. Even the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor had to wait outside, except for some great emperors who supported the Heavenly Clouds Empire. The great emperors who supported the Heavenly Clouds Empire stayed in the main hall, tasting wine and chatting happily. Compared to the outside, it was a world of difference. Even the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor had to wait outside, which made them very excited. It could be said that they bet on the right treasure. They supported Yi Tianyun just because they were hot-blooded. They didn't want to submit to the World Dragon Empire. Everyone knew that the World Dragon Empire wanted all the empires to obey them. Chapter 603. The World Dragon Empire was extremely domineering, but many empires could only obey. Now, the Heavenly Clouds Empire replaced the number 1 empire, and it was bound to show its strength to those who didn't support it. Letting bygones be bygones? That was all bullsh*t. Unless one's strength was insufficient, there was no such thing as letting bygones be bygones. In reality, they were just swallowing the humiliation. No one could swallow this humiliation. When Yi Tianyun ascended to the throne, so many people didn't give him face, so who would be happy? Letting them wait outside was giving them a chance. If it was the Netherworld Empire, they would have already killed them one by one. As long as the empires were slightly weaker, they would definitely be destroyed by the Netherworld Empire. However, the Netherworld Empire didn't have this kind of strength. Although the Netherworld Empire was at least ranked in the top 5, or even the top 3, its strength was still average. The reason was simple: he had the heavenly Netherworld divine nation behind him. Many empires knew the power behind the Netherworld Empire, so some people ranked it as the top 5 or even the top 3. This kind of strength ranking was actually made by some big forces, not by some rogue cultivators. The big forces publicized it like this: it was nothing more than giving face to the heavenly Netherworld divine nation. The passage couldn't allow a large number of experts to come up, but if they really wanted to come up, it wouldn't be a problem to pay a price. This was the reason why many empires didn't want to offend the Netherworld Empire. The Netherworld Empire was extremely cruel, but it had the heavenly Netherworld divine nation behind it. Who knew that the Heavenly Clouds Empire was destroyed, but it was still peaceful now, which was really shocking. Maybe the Netherworld divine nation would spend a lot of effort to overthrow the Heavenly Clouds Empire, but now, they had to bow their head. Therefore, they could only stay outside. Even if they had complaints, they didn't dare to leave, because if they left, they would really be finished. A group of great emperors waited outside, while Yi Tianyun studied the Sin Mall. He found that the evil dragon set had been recycled. This was something he didn't expect. Although it was useless, he could only exchange it for the evil spirit set after recycling it. In the Sin Mall, there was still the evil dragon set, and the price didn't change, but whoever bought it would be a fool. The most eye-catching thing was the evil dragon set. After purchasing the evil spirits equipment set, a brand new equipment set appeared above the higher grade equipment set, the evil god equipment set. Demon god equipment set, level 80 requirement. Once equipped, the wearer can transform into a demon god at any time. All strength, defense, and speed are increased by 200 times. When he entered demon god mode, all of his attacks became ranged attacks, and he could attack anything within 1,000 li. Furthermore, his attacks had a burning effect, and his critical hit rate was increased by 50%. Consumes 100,000 crazy points per minute. Price, 50 million sin points. There weren't many highlights. In fact, it was just a super enhanced version. Overall, there weren't any changes. It was just that every aspect had been greatly improved. Although the change wasn't huge, it was already quite shocking to be able to increase by such a terrifying amount. However, the price was even more eye-catching. It was a full 50 million sin points. He thought that he would only need 10 million sin points to buy it. Who would have thought that it would require a total of 50 million sin points? It was already difficult to earn 50 million crazy points, let alone 50 million sin points. The difficulty of earning crazy points far exceeded the speed of earning crazy points. It's not bad, but the price is too expensive. It consumes 100,000 crazy points per minute. This consumption is also quite high. Yi Tianyun shook his head. The consumption of crazy points has increased. Whether it was the evil dragon set or the evil spirit set, the transformation would consume crazy points. It's just that the value was too small, he didn't even bother to pay attention to it. For example, when the evil spirits set transformed into the evil spirits, it consumes 10,000 crazy points per minute, which was still bearable. Now it became 100,000 crazy points in a blink of an eye, which was a full increase of 10 times, but the price was still very high. But there was one thing to pay attention to, that is, level 80. At level 80, he would be a peak Saint King. At that time, 100,000 crazy points should be a piece of cake for him. As long as the effect didn't last for a long time, the consumption was nothing. It will take a long time to exchange for it. Now that most of the power of the evil spirit set has not been used, how can I use the evil spirit set? Yi Tianyun smiled. After exchanging for the evil spirit set, even an ordinary god king would have to take a detour in front of him. Now that he was at the first layer of Spirit King stage, with the evil spirit set, he would be able to crush ordinary Saint King stage experts, not to mention the crazy mode. It's not a problem to fight above my level. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. The effect was too overbearing. The crazy mode would allow him to kill any god. Let's see the lottery. I can't waste this opportunity. Yi Tianyun didn't worry about the great emperor outside. He continued to stay in the hall and draw the lottery. He stretched out his hand, and a wheel appeared in the void. Soon, it began to spin, and he immediately activated Luck Aura to see what he could get this time. Soon, the needle stopped and finally stopped on the consumable item. What the hell? Yi Tianyun was stunned. He already used Luck Aura, but the consumable item still appeared. Yi Tianyun was really puzzled. Did he use his Luck Aura and character points in vain? Dong. Then, a box rolled down from the inside and fell into the inventory. Looking at the item, Yi Tianyun felt a little depressed. Forget it, it's just a gift anyway. Yi Tianyun could only comfort himself and opened the wooden box, and soon, an item appeared in front of him. Teleportation God Stone. Rare. Teleportation God Stone. Can set coordinates at will, up to 5 locations, and can be teleported instantly. Can only be used 10 times at most. Good stuff. Yi Tianyun slapped his thigh and jumped up from the chair. He was very excited. This thing was more precious than any weapon. He really needed this type of treasure to be able to teleport to any place at will. As long as he set the coordinates, he can directly teleport back next time. He doesn't need to run around. It's quite easy for him to provide support. Especially for the mortal realm, heaven realm, and ghost realm. If his cultivation was too high, it would be relatively difficult for him to travel. As long as he set the coordinates in the mortal realm, he can come back instantly. There is no need to worry about this aspect. This is the same as the divine general summoning order. He can teleport instantly. It's quite easy. It's a pity that it can only be used for divine generals, and he can only fly. Looks like it's not that my luck is too bad, it's that this thing is equivalent to a divine artifact. Chapter 604. Teleportation Godstone is definitely a good thing, not to mention the underworld, even heaven realm won't be a problem with it. When the time comes, it won't be difficult at all. Looking at the teleportation Godstone in the shop, the price is as high as 15 million crazy point. This is really expensive. If I really need it, I will have to pay 15 million crazy points. This is really convenient. No other teleportation formation is as convenient as this one, not to mention the location is relatively fixed. The main thing is that it is extremely difficult to travel. Even he can't come up, so this teleportation Godstone is very necessary. Let's try again. Consumables are not useless after all. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He was too prejudiced before. He had drawn several consumables before, but they were relatively ordinary, so he was quite depressed. Thinking about it carefully, the higher level lottery roulette, even the consumables are very amazing, so there is no need to care about it. Again, he still has one lottery roulette left. He immediately continued to the next lottery roulette, and soon the lottery roulette spun quickly. Luck aura is also activated. Although the lottery roulette is good, it is another matter whether it can be rarer or not. So he activated luck aura, and soon the needles stopped, pointing to the jewelry type. Jewelry type. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. The jewelry type that was just added before. I don't know what will appear. Ding dong. Then a box rolled down. He immediately opened the box, and soon a necklace appeared in front of him. Desolate Ancient Necklace. Desolate Ancient Necklace. One of the Desolate Ancient set, Ancient Level Treasure. Wearing it increases strength by 15 times, speed by 10 times, defense by 10 times. Use 8,000 crazy points to cast Desolate Ancient Nothingness, turning the surroundings into nothingness, destroying everything within a range of 500 meters. Good stuff. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. Sure enough, with such a high luck value, the item must be good. This is also a high-level ancient level. If you really want to define this ancient level, it is basically the same as a divine tool, but it is a bit more unique than a divine tool. That is, it has more effects, and it is a set. This is the same as the previous Tyrant Stone Tablet. Both belong to the ancient level treasure, and have more effects. The difference between Desolate Ancient Necklace and Ancient Level Necklace is that it is a set. It's a 5-piece set. After taking a closer look, Yi Tianyun was shocked once again. He thought it was a 3-piece set. Who knew it was a 5-piece set? They were a necklace, a bracelet, a ring, an armor, and a pair of boots. It was not easy to collect all 5 pieces of the suit. It seemed that he could only obtain them through the lottery. Even if he could succeed every time, he would need to spend tens of millions of crazy points. The consumption of crazy points was too much. Of course, now that he had the evil spirit set, this could be put aside for the time being. Or perhaps he could just gather the 3 pieces of the set. There was no need to gather the 5 pieces. The evil spirit set consisted of boots and clothes, so it was quite flexible. After observing it for a while, Yi Tianyun nodded his head and put on the Desolate Ancient Necklace. From the outside, it looked like a string of sand hanging on the neck. It looked too simple and unadorned, without any highlights. There was nothing wrong with the man wearing the necklace. In addition, there were no highlights, so no one would notice it. Of course, he could conceal himself as long as he didn't show himself. It's almost time. Yi Tianyun stood up. Since the lottery was done, it was time for the great emperors outside to come in. Immediately, he turned his head and looked at the guard next to him, waved his hand and said, "Go, let them in." Yes. The guard hurriedly ran out and announced to the outside that Yi Tianyun summoned them. After the great emperors outside received the announcement, they all rushed in from outside. As soon as they came in, a great emperor rushed up and presented a treasure. "I am the great emperor of Lei Xing Empire. Greet the heavenly clouds, great emperor. This time we came to visit, please forgive us. In order to celebrate the great emperor's ascension to the throne, I specially brought 1,000-year blood ginseng to congratulate you." He took out a jade box and gently opened it. 1,000-year blood ginseng was lying inside, and a thick blood aura was released, making people feel very comfortable. The great emperor on the side squinted his eyes. The great emperor of Lei Yixing Empire was really generous. Even the great emperors wouldn't be willing to use this thing casually. Now that he brought it as a congratulatory gift, it was really a big deal. Lei Yixing Great Emperor was also distressed, but he could only do this. Otherwise, the empire would be gone, and the 1,000-year blood ginseng would be fake. If it was before, when Yi Tianyun ascended to the throne, he would just give a small gift casually. But now, he could only give a big gift, and if he gave a small gift, he would be finished. Before, it was a newly established empire, so he could only give a little ordinary gift. But now, it was vaguely the #1 empire, so who would dare to neglect it? Well, put it down. Yi Tianyun nodded with a blank expression. Lei Yixing Great Emperor was nervous, but he could only put down the blood ginseng and sit on the side. Then, the other great emperors presented their treasures one after another, and each one was better than the previous one. They took out all their treasures and didn't dare to hide anything. At this time, it was the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor's turn, but he didn't completely put down his pride. Instead, he smiled and congratulated. In order to congratulate the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, I brought a heavenly stargrass, which represents the prosperity of the Heavenly Cloud's empire like the stars in the sky. When the many great emperors saw the heavenly stargrass, they immediately gasped. It wasn't that this thing was too precious, but it was too ordinary. At most, it was a grade 4 spirit herb, but Lei Yixing Great Emperor took it out as a congratulatory gift. Although it sounded nice, but the gift was too bad. Just any gift from Lei Yixing Great Emperor could easily beat this thing. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes and looked at the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. As expected of the second-ranked empire, his aura was not small. Although they were willing to put down their pride, it was just an equal relationship, not to the point of bowing down to Yi Tianyun. As the second-ranked empire, even when the World Dragon Empire was still there, they didn't bow down to Yi Tianyun. Even now, in front of Yi Tianyun, they didn't choose to bow down. Well, thank you for your kindness, Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. Yi Tianyun didn't care. As long as they didn't provoke him, then everything would be fine. Immediately, the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor took a seat, and one by one, after contributing their treasures. The people present included all the great emperors who came to visit, and the worst one was a third-grade faction, and it was a top-notch one. The weaker third-grade faction couldn't come at all. The Empyrean Pole sect's people who were sitting on the side were excited when they saw this scene. They never imagined that they would see such a scene. With so many great emperors coming to flatter their Heavenly Cloud's empire, it was just a small third-grade faction before. Chapter 605. Everyone in the Heavenly Cloud's empire didn't expect such a glorious scene. They didn't expect such a scene at all. Now that it was realized, everyone was excited. This was something they couldn't achieve. In their opinion, it was amazing to reach the peak of the third-grade faction. Especially the Empyrean Terminus sect. They felt that they should burn incense if they could reach the peak of the third-grade faction. Everyone's eyes were focused on Yi Tianyun. If it weren't for Yi Tianyun, they would have been wiped out at any time. Everyone, don't be too nervous. Although I attacked the World Dragon Empire, it was the World Dragon Empire that attacked me. I've always been a person who doesn't offend me. As long as you don't provoke me, I won't attack you, Yi Tianyun said indifferently. The great emperors were overjoyed. It seemed that the new great emperor was still very broad-minded. He didn't intend to pursue the previous situation. But Yi Tianyun didn't wait for them to be happy for too long. He added, "That being said, everyone here, I will remember the choices you made before." Everyone's heart went cold as if a basin of cold water was poured over their heads. Especially the sentence that Yi Tianyun said, it made their hearts tremble. Did Yi Tianyun want to do something to them? Sure enough, things aren't that simple. This new great emperor wants to establish his prestige. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor slowly sipped his fragrant tea. His expression was relatively indifferent. Although the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor wasn't as powerful as the World Dragon Empire, he wasn't someone who could be easily bullied. He just wanted to coexist peacefully and didn't want to cause any disputes. The heaven primordial great emperor's visit to witness Yi Tianyun's ascension to the throne was the best proof. Even the second-ranked empire came to pay a visit. That's for sure. If we were in Yi Tianyun's shoes, we would do the same. It's very scary when we make the wrong choice. The old man next to him shook his head. Whether it was the third-grade faction or the empire faction, they were very clear about this. For example, the princes who were about to ascend the throne would fight among themselves. As for which prince the ministers chose to support, it was very important. If they chose the wrong prince, they could imagine the consequences. I have received your kind intentions. Thank you very much for your gifts. But from now on, as long as you know your place, I won't say anything more. If you provoke me or hurt my people, no matter what empire you are from, you will end up like the World Dragon Empire. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold and the aura of an expert spread out in all directions. Many great sovereigns were shocked and the terrifying aura made their hearts sink. Those with weaker cultivations shivered and their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Just this aura alone was enough to make them feel pressured. If they really made a move, what would it feel like? Spirit King stage. When the heaven primordial great emperor sensed this aura, he immediately estimated the approximate cultivation level, which made him feel somewhat puzzled. A Spirit King stage cultivator could overthrow the World Dragon Empire. However, according to the information provided by the spies in front of him, it seemed that he had used some kind of ultimate art or some kind of treasure to immediately possess the power to slay gods. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, it definitely wasn't ordinary for it to be able to unleash the power to kill a grand supreme old ancestor. I wonder what kind of treasure it is. The heaven primordial great emperor's eyes flashed with curiosity, but this was not something he could touch. He didn't know how low Yi Tianyun's bottom line was, and he didn't know what the situation was, so he didn't dare to ask at will. This was originally Yi Tianyun's trump card, so how could he casually say it out? At least, he wouldn't say it out loud, even to the people closest to him. Yes, yes. We won't do anything, and we will stay here obediently. Yes, we will treat the cultivators of the Heavenly Clouds Empire as distinguished guests. One by one, they quickly nodded to show their loyalty, expressing that they wouldn't act recklessly, let alone have any selfishness. Looking at the nodding and bowing expression, Yi Tianyun didn't feel the slightest bit of arrogance in his heart. This was what strength brought to him. If he didn't have strength, everything would be nonsense. Immediately afterward, Yi Tianyun gently raised his hand, and several precious treasures fell in front of the great emperors who had chosen to support him. This scene stunned many people. This is your reward, Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Thank you, Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. They were very grateful. They were all envious of these treasures before, but they didn't dare to accept them. Who knew that in the blink of an eye, they would be placed in front of them? The imperial forces who chose to support Yi Tianyun were relatively weak, so these treasures were definitely the type of national treasure for them. Now that they were given so many treasures, how could they not be excited? The other empires looked at each other, and their eyes were full of complex emotions. This was really a clear reward and punishment. Those who chose to support Yi Tianyun immediately got the benefits. This new great emperor is a bit interesting. He is quite broad-minded, otherwise, it would be troublesome. The heaven primordial great emperor nodded. He came here to see Yi Tianyun's character. If he was an absolute tyrant, they would have to think twice about the situation. Well, I won't say anything else. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, then the banquet officially begins. Let's enjoy today. Yi Tianyun clapped his hands and signaled the already prepared dancers to come on the stage to perform, and the banquet officially began. However, the great emperors were not in the mood to watch. Fortunately, Yi Tianyun was broad-minded, otherwise, they would definitely be finished. If it was the World Dragon Empire, even if they didn't die, they would be ruthlessly skinned. The banquet ended quickly, and most of the great emperors were worried that Yi Tianyun would suddenly change his mind and attack them. But after the banquet ended, they realized that they were overthinking things. Is the Heavenly Clouds Empire going to become the strongest empire? Isn't that for sure? Even the World Dragon Empire was destroyed, so how could we be the weakest? As long as the heavenly cloud's great emperor is still alive, no one would dare to provoke them at will. Fortunately, they didn't pursue it. As long as they don't pursue it, the rest doesn't matter. Each of the great emperors acknowledged the status of the heavenly cloud's empire in their hearts, but more importantly, they acknowledged the power of Yi Tianyun. The heavenly cloud's empire didn't have much power, and the focus was on Yi Tianyun. After one by one left, a new message finally popped up in Yi Tianyun's mind. Chapter 606. The main quest was finally completed, and all the rewards popped up at once. It was the most amazing reward he had ever received. He had to admit that the reward of the main quest was the most amazing. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to second layer Spirit King stage. Ding! Successfully accepted the main quest. Find Shishueyun. Reward, 300 million EXP, 100,000 crazy points, 5 super lottery roulette ticket. Then, a new main quest popped up, and it surprised him. He didn't expect the main quest to ask him to find Shishueyun. He originally planned to look for Shishueyun no matter what the situation of the main quest is. Now that his cultivation was high enough, and the situation in the mortal world had stabilized, plus he had the teleportation divine stone, he didn't feel any pressure at all. He could come back at any time, so he didn't have to worry about being attacked by the heavenly netherworld divine nation. Of course, he would make proper arrangements before leaving. He would not leave immediately. According to his original guess, the next main quest would be to destroy the heavenly netherworld divine nation, but it didn't seem to be the case. Instead, it asked him to find Shishueyun, which was very much in line with his plan. It seems that the system wants me to find my aunt. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. It seemed that he had to start preparing for the settlement of the heavenly cloud's empire. He would only dare to leave after everything was arranged properly. This place had just experienced a war, and there was a shortage of manpower to manage it, so he had to stay here to prevent other forces from making trouble for him. Of course, he didn't have anything to do with the management, so he left it to Yi Qingxian and the others. For him, having a big fist was enough. In the face of absolute power, any force was nothing. He didn't stay idle, but he started looking for the Divine King's treasure, which was what the people from the heavenly netherworld divine nation guessed. There might be a Divine King's treasure in the heavenly border continent, heavenly clouds continent, and even the earthly border continent. As for where it was, even they didn't know. If they knew, they would have already dug it out. It seems that I have to upgrade the appraisal eye. Ding! Successfully deducted 10 million crazy points to upgrade appraisal eye. Ding! Successfully upgraded appraisal eye to level 4. The next level requires 50 million crazy point. Ding! The appraisal eye has been upgraded to level 4, greatly strengthening the effect and range of the appraisal eye. It can now cover any area within 500 miles, instantly collecting all the information of all cultivators, including the area 100 miles underground. It has an extremely powerful penetrating effect and can penetrate the divine rune shield within the creator's body, including the creator. It can also determine the detailed data of the other party's physique. For example, strength, speed, and other data. Expand the bloodline database, expand the weapon database. The information popped up quickly. Compared to level 3, there was a world of difference between this and level 3. It felt like an Earth-class martial art was upgraded to a Heaven-class martial art. There was a huge change in its nature, and the area it could detect was even further than before. Even Yi Tianyun was shocked. At first, he thought that it was just a small improvement. Who knew that the effect of the improvement would be so shocking? He was quite satisfied with the huge improvement. 10 million crazy points was well spent. It's a pity that I can't upgrade crazy mode. Otherwise, I would have upgraded it a long time ago. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He currently had 50 million crazy points, so upgrading crazy mode wasn't a problem at all. However, he needed to reach the 5th layer of Spirit King stage to upgrade crazy mode, so he had to upgrade appraisal eye first. He believed that when he reached the 5th layer of Spirit King stage, he would have enough crazy points to upgrade appraisal eye. Here are some preparations and martial arts. Distribute them to everyone. Yi Tianyun took out a storage ring and handed it to Yi Qingxian. Yi Qingxian took the storage ring and checked it a little. She was shocked. These are heaven-class martial arts and sacred tools. She didn't expect Yi Tianyun to give her so many treasures. Now that her vision has broadened a lot, she knew what kind of shock it would cause if she took out so many treasures. Even the World Dragon Empire didn't have so many martial arts and sacred tools. Yi Tianyun just gave it to her so casually. There were a lot of things in the storage ring. When Yi Tianyun was in the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom, he obtained a lot of weapons and martial arts. Now that there were so many of them, Yi Tianyun decided to use them to strengthen their equipment. Yes, I'll leave them to you. Yi Tianyun looked at Yi Qingxuan's dumbfounded expression and couldn't help but smile. You don't need them? Yi Qingxian asked. Do you think I'll leave nothing behind and give you everything? Yi Tianyun said with a smile, I don't need these things. I just need to strengthen our strength. Now that I am here, no one dares to invade the heavenly cloud empire. When I am not here, you will have to rely on yourselves. Yi Qingxian nodded heavily. She knew this very well, so she didn't let it get to her head. They all knew that they were still far away from the heavenly clouds empire. If something happened to Yi Tianyun, or if he was trapped, the heavenly clouds empire would be like a boat in the sea. We will. Is the great emperor going to find Palace Lord Shi? Yi Qingxian heard from Yi Tianyun's tone that he was going to leave this place. Well, I'll go after a while. For now, I'll stay here and stabilize this place. Yi Tianyun said. Don't worry, I won't leave so soon. After that, Yi Qingxian went to do other things. She was very busy all day long. The expansion of their forces was too fast, and they couldn't help but be busy. Yi Tianyun, who was the great emperor, was much more relaxed. He immediately flew up and scanned the area with his appraisal eye along the way, easily covering a range of 500 miles. Well, 10,000 jin of jade spirit stone spirit vein. This is more than 1,000 jin of purple crystal spirit vein. Not bad. 10,000 jin of golden stone spirit vein. Not bad. Yi Tianyun glanced at it. He didn't find any treasures, but he found a lot of rare ores. It was just that the place was quite deep, and it took a lot of effort to dig it down. Ordinary cultivators wouldn't be able to detect it at all. Even Spirit King stage cultivators wouldn't be able to detect it easily. Ordinary Spirit King stage experts could only explore up to 20 or 30 miles underground, and that was already quite good. But Yi Tianyun had the appraisal eye, so he could directly explore 100 miles, which was 5 times more than them. This was the advantage of being able to explore the treasure carefully. In this case, Yi Tianyun didn't believe that he couldn't find the Divine King's supreme treasure. I hope you won't let me down. Hurry up and find it before the heavenly netherworld divine nation. If they find it, it will be troublesome. Chapter 607. Yi Tianyun quickly explored an area. His flying speed wasn't as fast as his exploration speed, so in the blink of an eye, he had already explored an area. The Heavenly Clouds continent was vast, and it still took him a few weeks to explore it completely. He didn't find any God King supreme treasure, but after exploring most of the areas, he found a lot of mineral veins, which was definitely a lot of wealth. He recorded the coordinates one by one, and when the time came, he would tell Yi Qingxian and the others to send people to mine. He could smelt a lot of weapons, and there were also a lot of jade spirit stones, which could be used for cultivation or weapon forging. A huge empire needed a lot of resources, and it was difficult for him to fill the gap by himself. More cultivators will join the Heavenly Clouds Empire, and the empire's influence will continue to grow. Although the Heavenly Clouds Empire was still very young, Yi Tianyun believed that it wouldn't take too long for it to stand firmly in the mortal world. At that time, he wouldn't need to rely on Yi Tianyun to become the #1 empire faction. The Heavenly Clouds continent is finished, next is the Heavenly Border continent. Yi Tianyun nodded. While crossing the sea, he also constantly explored the sea, and there were a lot of treasures in the sea. However, it didn't mean much to him, so he didn't spend much effort to fish it up. After arriving at the Heavenly Border continent, Yi Tianyun continued to explore. His speed was not fast nor slow, but it still consumed a lot of energy. But for him, it wasn't a big problem. After a little rest, he could move forward again. After a quick exploration, Yi Tianyun found a remote forest area, and he stopped in the air. He didn't find a God King supreme treasure here, but he saw two acquaintances here. These acquaintances were Yu Shiqian and Zhao Yu, whom he met in Demon Cloud Island a long time ago. At that time, Yu Shiqian reminded him to be careful. The second time he met them was when he was summoned by the Netherworld Empire, and he hadn't seen them since then. If he remembered correctly, these two people were from the White Lotus Mansion. The White Lotus Mansion was a good third-grade faction, but because it wasn't a top faction, it didn't even have the opportunity to invite them to his coronation ceremony. Yi Tianyun didn't expect that he would meet them here. However, their situation was not good. The two of them were surrounded by 6 people, and their cultivation was above core condensation. The highest cultivation level was Spirit Core 8th level or 9th level. Both of them were only at Spirit Core 3rd level or 3rd level, which was not low, but it was still not as good as the other party. With Yi Tianyun's current cultivation level, he is even more disdainful. These cultivators are like ants to him, he can kill them easily. Miss you, be good and come back with us. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rough. If you get hurt, our young master won't be happy. There was a big moose mole on his face, which made him even more young Yu of the army. Of this. His appearance was a little wretched, but his cultivation was not low. It was obvious that he came from a decent grade 3 force, not a relatively weak one. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to have so many experts Yi of the Charnyof of Empire of Yi of the situation. To be able to casually send out a few Spirit Core stage powerhouses, they must be at least a top 3rd grade force. Were you sent by young Master Shi? We didn't offend you, did we? Yu Shiqian frowned. She held her sword tightly and didn't relax at all. That's right. We haven't seen your young Master Shi many times. Why are you blocking our way? Could it be that you have some ulterior motives? Zhao Yu snorted coldly. She was still as fiery as ever. Hehe, what do you mean by that? We're just simply inviting the two of you to our house as guests, and we'll personally escort you there. The wretched man smiled. We don't have time for now, we have to go back to the manor. The manor lord is waiting for us. Yu Shiqian refused. When we have time in the future, we'll come and visit him. After saying that, she wanted to leave with Zhao Yu. However, how could the other party let them go? He quickly stood in front of them. Miss you, I don't want to say it again. If you don't come with us obediently, don't blame me for being rough. The wretched man said coldly. So, does your Demon Sky Mansion want to be enemies with our White Lotus Mansion? Yu Shiqian asked. Enemies? Do you think you're qualified? The wretched man sneered. We have a good relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Last time, our young master Shi drank a few cups of wine with the Heavenly Clouds Empire. To put it bluntly, if our young master Shi is not happy, just tell the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor that your White Lotus Mansion still exists. Heavenly Clouds Empire? Yu Shiqian's face changed. If they hadn't heard of the Heavenly Clouds Empire in the mortal world, then they would be too outdated. However, they believed the wretched man's words. The Demon Sky Mansion really went to the Heavenly Clouds Imperial capital, but they didn't know whether they had a good relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire or not. But if that was the case, then the White Lotus Mansion was really not strong enough. The Heavenly Clouds Empire could easily send an expert to destroy the White Lotus Mansion. What do you think? As long as you have a good relationship with young Master Shi, I'll introduce you to him, and you'll both be great heroes of the White Lotus Mansion. The wretched man tempted them with a smile. This is a rare opportunity, and it won't come again if you miss it. As long as you serve our young Master Shi well, everything will be fine. Shameless. Yu Shiqian said coldly. We won't go. If you have the ability, just come and try. They still wouldn't obey. They could imagine what would happen in the future. They would be sullied by young Master Shi. Is that so? Then don't blame our young Master Shi for nagging us in the Heavenly Clouds Empire. If your White Lotus Mansion sends someone over, we won't accept it. The wretched man sneered. Our patience is limited. If you don't leave now, not only will we use force, you won't get any benefit. Do you think your White Lotus Mansion can fight against the Heavenly Clouds Empire? Yu Shiqian's heart wavered. If the Heavenly Clouds Empire really blamed them, they would become the biggest sinners of the White Lotus Mansion. It wasn't uncommon for the White Lotus Mansion to compromise and offer their people, but they didn't expect it to happen to them. The wretched man sneered. They had to admit that this trick was really useful. They could clearly feel that the other party was wavering. Heavenly Demon Mansion? How come I didn't know that you have a good relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire? At this time, a young man walked over from the side with a cold smile on his face. Chapter 608. The Heavenly Demon Mansion was a top third-grade faction, and its overall strength wasn't weak. If it developed steadily, it was possible for it to become an empire. However, it would take a few years or even decades before it could be transferred to the Heavenly Demon Mansion. In order to become a power of an empire, it was impossible to establish it without a powerful divine rune master and a powerful emperor. Therefore, every empire had an imperial preceptor, who was mainly a divine rune master. An empire without the protection of a grand array was quite fragile, so having a divine rune master to protect the empire would give them a chance to fight back when they were attacked. At the very least, they would be able to hold on until reinforcements arrived and not collapse immediately. No matter how strong a faction was, even if it was a true dragon, it would have to bow down in front of him. In Yi Tianyun's impression, the Heavenly Demon Mansion did attend his banquet last time, but it wasn't to support him, but to beg for forgiveness. Now that he was being touted as having a good relationship with him, especially that bullshit young Master Shi, it was even more hilarious. Good relationship with him? Even if young Master Shi had 10 guts, he wouldn't dare to talk to him. Was young Master Shi qualified to talk to him? Even young Master Shi's father had to kneel and talk to him, let alone young Master Shi. He might be able to fool those with lower cultivation bases and weaker forces, but he was still able to do it. Who are you? The wretched man hurriedly turned his head and looked at Yi Tianyun. It's you. Zhao Yu pointed at Yi Tianyun and covered her mouth in surprise. Even Yu Shiqian was surprised. They had seen Yi Tianyun's true face a long time ago when the Netherworld Empire summoned him. At that time, the Mansion Lord of the Heaven's Top Mansion was already dead, but no one expected Yi Tianyun to suddenly appear. Although the Heaven's Top Mansion was merged into the Heavenly Clouds Empire, many things were covered up, so many people didn't know the real inside story. For example, most people didn't know that Yi Tianyun was still alive. Me? Am I not the great emperor you are talking about? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Your young master Shi has a good relationship with me. How come I don't know about it? You're the great emperor? The vulgar man was stunned. Immediately, a group of people pointed at him and laughed, shameless boasting. How dare you call yourself the Heavenly Clouds' great emperor? If this news spread to the Heavenly Clouds Empire, you will die without even knowing it. I, Yuan Long, am the person who accompanied young Master Shi to see the Heavenly Clouds' great emperor. How dare you lie in front of me? Yuan Long proudly raised his head as if he really saw the Heavenly Clouds' great emperor, but in fact, he didn't. He just waited outside the hall and didn't dare to enter. Bragging in front of an ordinary person might still have some credibility, but bragging in front of Yi Tianyun was courting death. Yi Tianyun was sure that he had never seen Yuan Long before. These people were all small fries, but he had an amazing memory. He only needed one look to know if he had seen Yuan Long before. Yu Shiqian and the others looked at Yi Tianyun and said, "Didn't you die before? And you were promoted by Heaven's Top Mansion to be the Mansion Lord?" They didn't care about the great emperor at all, but about the situation here. I won't die that easily. Yi Tianyun looked at them up and down and said with a smile, "Let's go, I will take care of this place." But they are so strong, if you get involved. Yu Shiqian frowned and shook her head. "Young master, I advise you not to get into trouble. They are from Heavenly Demon Mansion, and they are much stronger than Heaven's Top Mansion." Obviously, they weren't well informed enough. The news about the Heavenly Demon Mansion didn't spread much. Moreover, they didn't seem to specialize in collecting information, so it was normal that they didn't know most of it. However, the Heavenly Clouds Empire knew about it. Even a 3-year-old child would know about it. Heavenly Demon Mansion? Yi Tianyun sneered. Even if their young master Shi came here personally, he wouldn't be qualified to carry my shoes. They used my name to deceive others, and it's already good enough that I didn't destroy them. Boy, don't you think our words are useless? Yuan Long reached out and tried to grab Yi Tianyun's head. Yi Tianyun didn't even look at him, he just raised his hand, and Yuan Long was sent flying. Yuan Long crashed into a few trees before he stopped. Yi Tianyun just waved his hand, and a spirit core expert was killed so easily. This scene caused everyone to be dumbfounded. How could such a young man be so powerful? Yu Shiqian and the others were also stunned by this scene. It was unbelievable that Yi Tianyun could kill them with just a wave of his hand. You dare to hurt me. I won't let you go. I will ask young Master Shi to punish you. Yuan Long didn't die, at most, his body was fractured, and he couldn't move anymore. Punish? Yi Tianyun sneered, I will spare your life, but hurry up and go back to White Lotus Mansion. Tell your mansion lord to come to White Lotus Mansion in person. This emperor has to properly ask him what kind of courage he gave them to actually dare to borrow my reputation to commit crimes. He was really angry. He didn't care about the conflict, but the point was that he had to use his own reputation. If he didn't deal with the other forces, then his reputation would be ruined. It didn't matter if his reputation was ruined, the point was that he didn't do anything, which made him angry. The majesty of the great emperor was inviolable. You are dead. How dare you pretend to be the great emperor? Catch him. Yuan Long shouted and signaled his subordinates to catch Yi Tianyun. The other cultivators quickly took out a fine net. This was not an ordinary net, it was a specially processed net. Ordinary cultivators couldn't break it. No wonder he said he would use force, it was probably to catch Yu Shiqian and Yu Shiqian. But now that he was using it, he wouldn't be able to break it unless he was a high-level spirit core cultivator. They knew that Yi Tianyun wasn't weak, so they didn't dare to approach him at will. They could only quickly outflank him from a distance and quickly throw the golden net in their hands to cover him. Get out of here. Yi Tianyun waved his hand, and a gust of wind rolled up. Bang! 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 The surrounding cultivators were sent flying, and after smashing through a few trees, they stopped moving. Successfully killed a spirit core cultivator. This time, he didn't show any mercy, he killed as many as these bastards came, leaving one or two to go back and inform the White Lotus Mansion. Too strong, Yu Shiqian and Yu Shiqian's beautiful eyes were wide open, they were shocked by this power. Even the weakest cultivator was a core condensation cultivator, but he killed them with a wave of his hand. Didn't this mean that he was a core transformation cultivator? Chapter 609. Yi Tianyun killed all of them in one move. This time, they were completely scared. Of the 6 people they brought with them, only 2 were left standing. Their legs were trembling, and they turned around and ran to the side. When they picked up their companion who was sent flying, they were immediately shocked. Dead. Dead. These Demon Sky Mansion's disciples were dumbfounded. They thought that Yi Tianyun was just sent flying, but they didn't expect that he would be killed directly. Immediately, they hurriedly ran in the direction of Yuan Long and looked at Yi Tianyun as they were worried that he would attack them. In fact, they thought too much. Yi Tianyun wasn't interested in attacking them at all. As long as they didn't provoke him, he didn't care. Besides, he still needed someone to go back and report to the Demon Sky Mansion. When the time came, he would ask them about the situation. You actually killed our Demon Sky Mansion's people. You are dead. Even if Yuan Long couldn't move, he was still extremely arrogant. Just because their Demon Sky Mansion was a top 3rd-grade faction and had a relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire, they could ignore everything. Even if Yi Tianyun had a little bit of strength, in their opinion, he would definitely die. Go back and tell your Heavenly Demon Mansion that your mansion master will come and see me personally. Yi Tianyun said coldly. If I go to the Heavenly Demon Mansion in person, it won't be easy. Very well. You will definitely die a horrible death. I will report this matter to the Heavenly Clouds Empire and the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor. Young Master Shi is a friend of the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor, and you still dare to pretend to be the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor? White Lotus Mansion, you are finished. Yuan Long was quickly carried away. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. He was worried that if he stayed here, Yi Tianyun would really kill him. Although the sect would avenge them, it wasn't worth it if they all died. After they all left, Zhao Yu glared at Yi Tianyun and said, "This time, we are finished. You provoked the demon sky mansion, but you even provoked the heavenly clouds empire. Our White Lotus mansion is going to be dragged into this mess." She was panicking. How could she believe that Yi Tianyun was the heavenly clouds' great emperor? In their opinion, Yi Tianyun didn't have the slightest air of a great emperor. Not to mention a great emperor, even a prefecture master could crush many people to death. "You Shiqian shouted. Zhao Yu then obediently shut up and stood behind Yu Shiqian. She then said apologetically, "Lord, I'm really sorry. Yu didn't mean it, she was just too nervous. If it wasn't for young master, we would have been taken away by now. Now, you should leave quickly. You won't be able to escape punishment if you offend Heavenly Demon Mansion, and the Heavenly Clouds Empire is behind you." Yi Tianyun squinted at them and said with a smile, "You don't believe that I am the great emperor of Heavenly Clouds?" "I don't believe you." Zhao Yu put her hands on her waist and said, "If you are the Heavenly Clouds' great emperor, I would be the empress. Little Yu, are we really letting him go? Won't we be the scapegoat? This happened because of us, let us deal with it." Yu Shiqian sighed and raised her beautiful eyebrows. She looked pitiful. "Little Yu." Zhao Yu bit her lip. After thinking clearly, she could only nod her head and say, "If the palace lord wants to send us out, then we'll send you out. It's our fault for provoking someone we shouldn't have. Let's go." Yi Tianyun said indifferently. "Go? Where?" Zhao Yu was confused. "To White Lotus Mansion? Do you think I was joking?" Yi Tianyun said indifferently. "I will go to White Lotus Mansion and wait for Heavenly Demon Mansion to come here. I will deal with this matter properly." "Okay, that's what you said." Zhao Yu is really happy. She is really worried that Yi Tianyun will leave, then they have to bear all the responsibility, it will be quite troublesome. Yu Shiqian frowned and sighed when she saw Yi Tianyun's indifferent back. Since Yi Tianyun had made up his mind, they could only obey. But in their hearts, they didn't believe that Yi Tianyun was a great emperor. Yi Tianyun didn't care whether they believed him or not. Anyway, they had to deal with this matter, and they would know when the time came. Under the lead of Yu Shiqian and the others, they boarded a carriage and flew towards White Lotus Mansion. They came out to find some spirit herbs, but they didn't expect to run into Heavenly Demon Mansion's cultivators. Yi Tianyun was lying in the carriage, drinking tea leisurely, looking calm and collected. Yu Shiqian and the others were surprised by Yi Tianyun's situation. Did Yi Tianyun have some kind of background or relationship? In their opinion, Yi Tianyun was a bit like a puppet. Wasn't provoking the Netherworld Empire the same as seeking death? But he was still alive, and his cultivation was greatly enhanced, so he should have someone backing him. "Young Master Yi, do you have some kind of relationship with the Heavenly Clouds Empire?" Yu Shiqian thought for a moment before asking. After thinking about it, Yi Tianyun didn't have to worry about the Heavenly Demon Mansion's backing. "What kind of relationship do I need? I am the Heavenly Clouds Empire's great emperor, who has a stronger relationship than me," Yi Tianyun said with a smile. "He's bragging again, Yu Shiqian, don't ask him anymore. He's so secretive and won't say anything. Since he said he can clean it up, let him clean it up." Zhao Yu snorted coldly and didn't bother to pay attention to Yi Tianyun. Suddenly, the carriage became silent, and only the sound of Yi Tianyun sipping tea could be heard. They looked at each other and didn't know what to say. Soon, they returned to the White Lotus residence. The carriage descended from the sky, and they all got off the carriage. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed, and his expression froze. As soon as he arrived in this area, he found a strange thing at the bottom of the White Lotus Mansion. Along the way, Yi Tianyun didn't stay idle. He had been exploring the surroundings, and when he arrived in this area, he immediately found a special treasure in the White Lotus Mansion. This treasure was buried deep under the White Lotus Palace and was sealed by countless divine runes. It was as if a huge boulder had been locked inside. Yi Tianyun's appraisal eye couldn't penetrate deep into the White Lotus Mansion. One must know that Yi Tianyun could easily penetrate the Creator's divine runes, but he couldn't analyze this treasure. It was obvious that there were too many things inside, and the appraisal eye couldn't easily analyze it. Either he continued to upgrade the appraisal eye, or he personally observed it. If he observed it from above, he wouldn't be able to see it at all. Interesting, I didn't expect the God King's supreme treasure to be under the White Lotus Mansion. Yi Tianyun didn't know if it was a God King's supreme treasure or not, but even his appraisal eye couldn't easily analyze it, so he had to take a closer look. Through the appraisal eye, Yi Tianyun also found that the boulder was buried very deep, and there was no connecting passage. Chapter 610. After searching for so long, I finally found it. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He didn't expect to find it under the White Lotus Mansion. In this way, he didn't need to go to the earthly border continent to search for it. The process was a bit troublesome and wasted a lot of time. Now that he found it under the White Lotus Mansion, whether it was a divine king's supreme treasure or not was another matter. "What are you doing here? Why don't you go in?" Zhao Yu said unscrupulously. Although Yi Tianyun's strength was good, she felt that he was at most a core transformation stage cultivator. Although his cultivation was not bad, it was still a far cry from the heavenly demon mansions. The main reason was that Yi Tianyun had been standing there for a long time, and they all wanted to go in, but Yi Tianyun was still standing there like a fool. Maybe Gongzi Yi is thinking about something. Yu Shiqian glared at her, hinting her not to be so impulsive. What can he be thinking about? Is he shocked by our White Lotus Mansion? Although our White Lotus Mansion is not one of the top third-grade forces, our mansion is definitely one of the best, Zhao Yu said with a proud smile. The White Lotus Mansion in front of them was magnificent and covered a very wide area. It could be said that it occupied 10 mountains. Each mountain was home to a disciple of the White Lotus Mansion. Different mountains represented different positions. The ones in the middle were the core disciples, the ones in the periphery were the inner disciples, and so on. The spiritual energy here was quite rich, and it was also one of the best places to cultivate in the entire heavenly border continent. The only drawback was that it only recruited women, which was equivalent to a super-enhanced version of the Heavenly Jade sect. The number of disciples here was several times more than the Heavenly Jade sect. There were quite a lot of female disciples, but no matter how many there were, it was not comparable to the mixed recruitment of male and female disciples. However, the White Lotus Mansion had always implemented this rule, which was that they could only recruit female disciples. Other male disciples were not accepted, no matter how talented they were. Because of this, the scale of the White Lotus Mansion could only be considered as medium level. Although the White Lotus Mansion recruited women, it was not the White Lotus Mansion that had the most female cultivators. Instead, it was the top forces that had the most female cultivators. This was because female cultivators still wanted to hook up with a rich husband. If they could find a powerful Dao companion, it would be very beneficial to them. Furthermore, it was not tiring for men and women to work together. The male disciples were quite willing to help them, so why not? The Heavenly Demon Mansion dared to be so arrogant because they couldn't raise their power. Moreover, it was mainly because of the Heavenly Clouds Empire's power that they dared to say such words. The White Lotus Mansion wouldn't be easy to deal with if they really fought. Not bad. Yi Tianyun glanced at it and didn't say anything else. He had seen grander things than this place. Just the phoenix nest alone was enough to kill a few streets here. Stubborn. Zhao Yu snorted coldly and turned her head to the side, too lazy to bother with him. In her eyes, Yi Tianyun was just bragging. Other than bragging, he was just bragging. This made her very unhappy. Not a single word he said was true. "All right, young Master Yi, follow us in." Yu Shiqian thought for a moment and said, "Young Master Yi, please don't wander around after we enter. This place originally prohibits men from entering, so please have some self-discipline." There were many places in this place that were inconvenient to enter. Moreover, Yi Tianyun was an outsider, so he couldn't wander around. "No, take me to see your mansion, Lord." Yi Tianyun looked at her and said, "Do you think you can see our mansion, Lord, whenever you want?" Zhao Yu snorted. "What's going on? It's so noisy outside." At this time, a beautiful woman came out from the inside with a serious face. Elder Bai Yu, when the two of them saw her, they hurriedly greeted her. Yi Tianyun looked up and saw that the woman in front of him was not weak. Her cultivation was at core transformation stage 2. Obviously, she was an elder of the White Lotus Mansion. The strongest cultivator in the 3rd grade faction was at most void spirit stage, but it was rare for them to have a void spirit stage expert. Most of them were at core transformation stage. Bai Yu looked at Yi Tianyun and found that she couldn't see through his cultivation base, which made her a little confused. May I know who this is? I am the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. I came here to deal with some matters, but now I want to see your mansion, Lord. Yi Tianyun said bluntly. Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, you? Bai Yu's face sank and said. This joke is not funny at all. Who the hell did you two bring back? How dare you say that he is the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor? Do you know what kind of crime this is? Our White Lotus Mansion can't bear it. I knew it. Zhao Yu sighed. Did she bring back a braggart? Yes, who did you two bring back? If he is the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, then I am the Empress. At this time, a girl on the side came out and sneered at them. Elder Bai Yu, I don't know where they brought this wild man from this time. We said that we were going to pick spirit herbs, but they brought back a man. This sounded quite familiar, as Zhao Yu said it before. Yi Tianyun was too young, and he didn't have the aura of an emperor. Who would believe it? Which great emperor would be so young? At least 30 or 40 years old, but the one in front of them was only about 20 years old. Who would believe it? Wei Yun, what do you mean? Zhao Yu's hot personality showed again, and she said coldly. What wild man? We were stopped by the people of Demonic Sky Mansion, and then he appeared to help us solve the problem, and then he brought him back. People of Demonic Sky Mansion? Elder Bai Yu's eyes turned cold, and she asked, tell me what happened. Immediately, Zhao Yu told the general story, and everyone's eyes focused on Yi Tianyun. They didn't expect him to be so bold as to kill people of Demonic Sky Mansion. Well, you killed people of Demonic Sky Mansion. Elder Bai Yu, they made a big mistake. I know the situation of Demonic Sky Mansion very well, and young Master Shi has a really good relationship with the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. This kid must be an imposter, and he wanted to deceive the trust of the two little sisters, so he took action. Who knew that he would provoke Demonic Sky Mansion? Wei Yun added fuel to the fire, and a ruthless look flashed in her eyes. Elder Bai Yu's face was gloomy, and this was not a good thing. I think young Master Shi sent people to stop Miss Yu, and it has something to do with you, right? Yi Tianyun looked at her indifferently as if he wanted to see through her. And it seems that you are very familiar with young Master Shi, right? You are an outsider, but you speak for Demonic Sky Mansion. You, what nonsense are you talking about? Wei Yun was like a cat whose tail was stepped on, and she screamed and retorted, on the contrary, you two are fooling around outside. Shut up. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and a murderous intent surged out, instantly penetrating Wei Yun's heart. Chapter 6:11. Some things should be said, and some things shouldn't be said. Don't you understand? Yi Tianyun was too lazy to care about these juniors. If it weren't for the fact that White Lotus Mansion had no enmity with them, he would have already dug the boulder by force. He gave White Lotus Mansion some face. If they didn't know him, then it was fine. It was useless to use his aura to suppress them. Even if he could defeat them, they wouldn't believe that he was the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. Although he could solve these problems easily, he had a good impression of Yu Shiqian. It wasn't a feeling of love, but a feeling of kindness, so he gave her some face. From the beginning, Yu Shiqian paid attention to his situation, and she was also very polite, which was rare. What a strong aura. Elder Bai Yu couldn't understand the young man in front of him. He was so young, yet he had such strength, so his background was definitely not simple. However, saying that he was the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor didn't seem credible. You. Wei Yun couldn't say a word. She was so scared that she couldn't calm down. Just a look from Yi Tianyun made her feel weak all over. She didn't dare to look at Yi Tianyun. The feeling just now was too terrifying, as if she was in a battlefield of slaughter. She felt like she was cut into 7 or 8 pieces. Everything was so real, and she felt like she just came back to life. Little friend, Your cultivation is not low. Do you think it's fun to do this? Elder Bai Yu was a little unhappy. If you were slandered by others, would you be happy about it? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. I don't want to say anything more. Let me see your mansion master. I have something to tell your mansion master. Elder Bai Yu said angrily. You are helping Yu Shiqian, but at the same time, you are provoking Heavenly Demon Mansion and the Heavenly Clouds Empire. You are simply doing bad things with good intentions. Just because of this, you dare to see our mansion master? Our mansion master is not someone you can see just because you want to. It was obvious that Elder Bai Yu was biased. Wei Yun had a good relationship with her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said those words. You mean to say that the two of them were casually given away? Yi Tianyun looked at Yu Shiqian and the others. Their faces were pale and their eyes were filled with disappointment. This is the best choice. Elder Bai Yu looked at Yu Shiqian and the others coldly and said, since the Heavenly Demon Manor will come, you guys wait here. If they want you to go over, then go over. This is your fault, so you have to take responsibility for it. Yes. Yu Shiqian bit her lips, tears welled up in her eyes. The two of them were like a piece of rag, thrown away after using it. Gold and jade on the outside, but rotten inside. Is this how a sect is managed? Yi Tianyun shook his head and said indifferently, this will only disappoint you. As an elder, you can't even tell the situation. What does an outsider like you know? Do you really dare to provoke the Heavenly Clouds Empire for the benefit of the sect? Elder Bai Yu sneered. What else can you do besides talk big? How dare you call yourself the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor? If you were in the Heavenly Clouds Empire, you would definitely die. Kneel down, Yi Tianyun said in a deep voice. A terrifying pressure pressed down on Elder Bai Yu. Elder Bai Yu's legs softened, and she actually knelt down. She was a dignified core transformation expert, yet she was forced to kneel down. This showed how strong this young man's cultivation was. How could he have such amazing power? Could he be at core transformation stage 6th or 7th layer? You actually want me to kneel down? Elder Bai Yu screamed. She wanted to get up, but she couldn't. She felt like there was a weight of 10,000 pounds pressing down on her shoulders, making her unable to move. Let alone kneel down, even if I ask you to die, your White Lotus Mansion won't dare to hold me responsible. Yi Tianyun said coldly. I suspect that you are colluding with the Demon Heaven Mansion, and that you are in cahoots with the Demon Heaven Mansion. Who your White Lotus Mansion colludes with has nothing to do with me, but now, whoever has a relationship with the Heavenly Demon Manor will be punished. Young Master Yi. Yu Shiqian and the others were shocked, and they all looked at Yi Tianyun. Little Yu, you are back. At this time, an elder who was about the same age as Elder Bai Yu came out, and when he saw Yu Shiqian, he smiled and walked out, but the situation around him didn't seem right. Elder Su Fan. Yu Shiqian said respectfully. Elder Bai Yu, what's the situation now? Elder Su Fan frowned, then looked at Yi Tianyun, and he didn't know why Elder Bai Yu would kneel in front of a young man. Yi Tianyun only pressured Elder Bai Yu, so the others didn't feel any pressure at all. There is no situation, I told her to kneel. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. She repeatedly offended me, and it's already good enough that I didn't sentence her to death. What's wrong with kneeling a little? Elder Su Fan, I don't know where this kid came from. Not only did he impersonate the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor, but he also killed the people of Heavenly Demon Mansion. Quickly ask the other elders to arrest him and hand him over to the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Elder Bai Yu felt very humiliated, and he couldn't get up even if he wanted to. Impersonate the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor? Elder Su Fan was taken aback. This wasn't a simple matter. Yu Shiqian and the others didn't know how to deal with this situation, and as the younger generation, what could they say? Even if he impersonated the Heavenly Clouds Great Emperor, he did it to save this disciple. Yu Shiqian came over and knelt down, and she pleaded. This young Master Yi saved this disciple, otherwise, he would have already been taken to Heavenly Demon Mansion. I beg Elder Su Fan, please blame me. Everything happened because of me, just hand me over to Heavenly Demon Mansion. Young Master Yi, it's enough. I know you are kind, but it's enough. Yu Shiqian sighed deeply. She was already desperate. Even if Yi Tianyun was strong, in her opinion, he was still a lot weaker than the Heavenly Cloud's empire. Are you really the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Elder Su Fan didn't scold Yi Tianyun right away, but he looked at Yi Tianyun. Is there a problem? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Do you think I don't have the aura of an emperor, or do you think I'm too young? Elder Su Fan felt more like the latter. Who would think that Yi Tianyun was a great emperor at such a young age? Elder of White Lotus Mansion, hand over Yu Shiqian. Also, hand over that brat. At this time, a roar came from the carriage in the air, and immediately, a few figures fell from the sky. One of them was a handsome man with a low cultivation, and the two men beside him had a higher cultivation than him, but they were obviously guards, and their cultivation was at core transformation stage. Young Master Shi. When Wei Yun saw the young master, he immediately got a little bit of strength, and his eyes were filled with a bit of affection. Yu Shiqian, I invited you to Heavenly Demon Mansion as a guest, but I didn't expect you to kill my people. No wonder you didn't agree to my pursuit. It turns out that you have someone you like. Young Master Shi said angrily. Where is that boy? Young Master Shi, it's him. Yuan Long, who was lying in the carriage, pointed at Yi Tianyun and said angrily. He not only killed our people, but he also said that he is the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Young Master Shi's eyes turned cold, and then he looked at Yi Tianyun and said angrily. When he saw Yi Tianyun's face clearly, he felt like his throat was being strangled, and he couldn't say a word. I heard that you are very familiar with me, and you even drank with me, and called me brother. Yi Tianyun squinted at him with a bit of playfulness. Chapter 612. Yi Tianyun looked at young Master Shi indifferently. He didn't know young Master Shi's real name, and he didn't care about young Master Shi's real name. Young Master Shi, he is pretending to be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Didn't you see the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor before? Expose his true identity now. Yuan Long laughed from behind, and his eyes were filled with endless joy. He was ready to see Yi Tianyun die in front of him. Pretending to be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Yes, he pretended to be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor and said that he is the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Wei Yun climbed up and walked towards Yi Tianyun, as if he had the confidence. He no longer evaded Yi Tianyun's gaze, and there was no fear like before. With young Master Shi's support, she was full of confidence, and her previous fear was swept away. Then it turned into arrogance, a kind of arrogance. In her opinion, being able to associate with someone who knew the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor was like having a relationship with the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. The Heavenly Cloud's great emperor's popularity was too high, and anyone who saw him would worship him endlessly. He was definitely a legend in the mortal world. On the side, Yu Shiqian's face changed, and she hurriedly came in front of young Master Shi and said, Young Master Shi, young Master Yi didn't pretend to be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. It's all my fault. Even Yu Shiqian apologized, which made Wei Yun feel even more happy. However, Elder Bai Yu wanted to get up, but he couldn't, so he could only yell, You little brat, get out of here. Just when everyone thought that Yi Tianyun was a fake, young Master Shi's legs trembled, and after he reacted, he slapped Wei Yun in the face. Pa! A crisp sound spread around. How dare you? How dare you disrespect the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? He is the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, not a fake. Then, young Master Shi knelt on the ground and said in a respectful tone, Greetings, greetings, Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. His limbs were on the ground, and he didn't even dare to raise his head. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. He told others that he had drunk wine with Yi Tianyun before, but it was all a bluff. In reality, he had not drunk wine at all. At most, he had seen him from afar and knew what he looked like. Even his father didn't have the right to propose a toast, let alone him. Calling him brother was just a bluff. When young Master Shi knelt down, his words stunned everyone, including Yuan Long and the others who doubted Yi Tianyun. Following that, the surroundings fell into a deathly silence. Not a single word could be said. A legend of the mortal world was standing right in front of him, questioning his identity from the very beginning. Yi Tianyun said that he was the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, but no one believed him. Now that young Master Shi had said so, Who wouldn't believe him? He was the only one who had seen Yi Tianyun's true face. Wei Yiyun covered his swollen face and stared blankly at Yi Tianyun, his eyes filled with disbelief. The impostor who had been screaming and screaming before was really the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Now she didn't feel any pain on her face at all, and she was shocked by the situation. I heard that you are very familiar with me, Yi Tianyun said indifferently. No, it's all nonsense, I don't know anything about it. Young Master Shi suddenly jumped up, pulled out the long sword from his waist, and stabbed at Yuan Long, who was lying on the carriage. How dare you use the name of the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor to commit crimes outside? Apologize for your sins with your death. Yuan Long looked at the long sword in his chest in disbelief. It was really a fatal sword, and it was merciless. He had followed young Master Shi for so many years, but he didn't expect that young Master Shi would kill him so mercilessly. Young Master Shi. Yuan Long was full of resentment before he died, but it wasn't because of Yi Tianyun, but because of his young master. He didn't expect that everything was fake, and it wasn't because of Yi Tianyun, but because they just met. All the problems were because of his young master, and it caused a lot of problems for him. Immediately, Yuan Long was completely dead. He was full of unwillingness, but he could understand it. If young Master Shi didn't do this, the Heavenly Demon Mansion would probably be implicated. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, I have brought trouble to you. It's all my fault for not disciplining him properly, which led to this situation. Young Master Shi's back was dripping with cold sweat, and he didn't know if he could fool Yi Tianyun with this trick. Kneel. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold, and he followed young Master Shi's pressure. Bang! Young Master Shi's knees directly kneeled on the ground, and blood flowed from his knees, staining the ground red. It was enough to show how heavy the pressure was. It was much heavier than Elder Bai Yu's pressure. This trick is good for others, but will it work on me? Yi Tianyun said indifferently, using my name to swindle and kidnap people outside, this courage is not small. I was wrong, please let me go, Great Emperor. After young Master Shi was seen through, he quickly kowtowed and admitted his mistake. He didn't dare to stop even after his head was broken. This scene fell into the eyes of the crowd, and it was no longer a word to describe it as shock. Especially Zhao Yu, she was sweating profusely. Before, she said that if Yi Tianyun was the great emperor, then she would be the empress. Now that he was really the great emperor, wouldn't she be finished? Zhao Yu hurriedly knelt down, and she wanted to cry but had no tears. She was already scared to the point that her legs were soft. She didn't even need to kneel down because of Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun glanced at them, and even Wei Yun knelt down, and he didn't know what to say. Elder White Feather's expression was even more interesting, alternating between white and green. Her previous offense had made her intestines turn green with regret. If Yi Tianyun really blamed them and killed them, no one would dare to look into it. Yu Shiqian also looked at Yi Tianyun, and she felt that everything was so surreal. The legendary Great Emperor appeared in front of her. She didn't expect that the puppet palace lord of heaven's top mansion would become the Great Emperor. Get up. Yi Tianyun signaled Yu Shiqian and Zhao Yu to get up. Great Emperor. You don't blame me? Zhao Yu felt very embarrassed. She called Yi Tianyun Empress so loudly, and it was really embarrassing. What's there to blame? Ignorant people are innocent, Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Although I have nothing to do with White Lotus Mansion, I don't like people who collude with outsiders to intimidate me, Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Especially if it's related to me. Elder Bai Yu and the others' faces changed, and they immediately knelt down and kowtowed. Sorry, we didn't mean to. They also knelt down and kowtowed continuously. At this time, it wasn't shameful to kowtow, they just wanted to save their lives, and they didn't want to implicate the sect. Chapter 613. Only the sound of kowtowing could be heard, but no one dared to resist. Especially young Master Shi, who had been kowtowing for a long time. His forehead was already red, but he could only keep kowtowing and beg for Yi Tianyun's forgiveness. At this time, the rest of the people of the White Lotus Mansion heard the noise, but they all stood aside quietly. Even the mansion master didn't dare to say a word. The mansion master of the White Lotus Mansion was a beautiful woman in her 40s. She was mature and steady, but now she looked like a servant girl. She stood beside Yi Tianyun with her hands put together on her abdomen and looked at everything coldly. Her cultivation is not bad, she is at 8th level core transformation stage, but in Yi Tianyun's eyes, she can be easily killed with a single slap. Elder Bai Yu and the others kowtowed one after another, but the mansion master didn't say a word. In this world, strength was everything. Even if Yi Tianyun did something wrong, they could only swallow their anger. If they resisted, they would be destroyed. Moreover, now that she knew the ins and outs of the matter, she wouldn't say anything. That's enough. Yi Tianyun raised his hand gently, and they stopped kowtowing. They all raised their heads and looked at him, begging for his forgiveness. Do you think you can beg for my forgiveness with this kind of trick? Yi Tianyun looked at him indifferently. It would be meaningless even if he cut off one of his hands, let alone kowtowing. Young Master Shi's face changed. He said in panic, No. I really didn't use the name of the great emperor to deceive people, really, is that so? I'll send someone to inquire about it. Whether your heavenly evil mansion can leave any inheritance or not depends on the information I've sent out. Yi Tianyun looked at Zhao Yu and the others and said, The three of you, go and find out how many things the heavenly demon mansion has done using my name. Yes, Elder Bai Yu felt the pressure on her body was gone, so she hurriedly got up and went to work. Even Wei Yun nodded and went to work. Similarly, Zhao Yu did not have any complaints. She did not dare to have any complaints either. She quickly went to inquire about this information. Only young Master Shi was still kneeling, and his face was getting uglier and uglier. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't dare to brag so much. At first, he thought that Yi Tianyun wouldn't come here, but he didn't expect that not only did he come here, but he also met his stupid subordinate. Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, do you want our White Lotus Mansion to help you investigate? This is to compensate for our rudeness. At this time, the mansion lord of White Lotus Palace stood up and said respectfully. Yi Tianyun nodded and said, Okay, thank you for your help. It's no trouble at all. Bai Yulian smiled. Even if it was troublesome, she didn't dare to say it out loud. When she found out what had happened, she knew that the hospitality here was not good enough. How would she dare to say that it was troublesome? She to know that they didn't to tell her, so they great. Immediately after, Bai Yulian sent out many disciples to search for information. Young Master Shi remained kneeling on the ground, not daring to get up. Immediately, White Lotus sent many disciples to search for information, but young Master Shi was still kneeling in the same place, not daring to get up. After telling all the disciples to search for information, Bai Yulian bowed respectfully and said, Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor, I heard that you are looking for me. She really couldn't remember why Yi Tianyun was looking for her. She remembered that she had no connection with the Heavenly Cloud's empire, and it was impossible for her to provoke the Heavenly Cloud's empire. She couldn't remember why Yi Tianyun was looking for her. She remembered that she had no connection with the Heavenly Cloud's empire, and it was impossible for her to provoke the Heavenly Cloud's empire. Yu Shiqian's appearance and talent were among the top in the entire White Lotus Mansion. She had a lot of pursuers, and young Master Shi was one of them. Everyone knew that this time, he was using the reputation of the Heavenly Cloud's empire to pursue her. There were many suitors, and young Master Shi was one of them. Everyone knew that this time, he was using the reputation of the Heavenly Cloud's empire to pursue her. Who knew that he would be caught by Yi Tianyun? Thinking about the possibility of becoming the Empress, Bai Yulian was ecstatic. If she became the Empress, the White Lotus Mansion would definitely soar. At that time, who would dare to provoke them? I have met Miss Yu before, and she is a good person. She also kindly reminded me, which is why I am willing to help her. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Great Emperor, did I help you before? Yu Shiqian asked in confusion. She really didn't know when she helped Yi Tianyun. They met before, but they didn't even talk to each other, let alone help him. What about this? When Yi Tianyun turned to look at her, he gently waved his hand, and a familiar face appeared in front of her. After seeing it clearly, Yi Tianyun quickly waved his hand and took back the 100 transformation mask. No one else saw it. Yes, it's you. Yu Shiqian was shocked. This time, she finally knew when she saw Yi Tianyun. She didn't expect that it was a long time ago on Devil Cloud Island. She was completely shocked. It was a long time ago, and she almost forgot it. If it weren't for this face, she really wouldn't have remembered it. Now, do you know? Yi Tianyun said with a smile. If White Lotus Mansion doesn't treat you well, you can come to my Heavenly Clouds Empire. I will arrange a good position for you. Yi Tianyun was trying to poach Yu Shiqian in front of him, but Bai Yulian wasn't unhappy at all. Although she couldn't become an empress, she could definitely help White Lotus Mansion if she could hold an important position in the Heavenly Clouds Empire. I will. Yu Shiqian was dazed. She hadn't thought that a friendly reminder would bring her such benefits. A great emperor would take care of her like this. Yi Tianyun wasn't a fool, and he didn't say that just because she was beautiful. Yu Shiqian was very talented, and her status wasn't bad, but she was willing to remind him, which proved that she was kind. Kindness was one of his main criteria, and she was also a good person, so she was very suitable to be a minister of Heavenly Clouds Empire. Yi Tianyun smiled and didn't say anything. He lifted his foot and walked towards the White Lotus Mansion. Bai Yulian quickly followed him, and at the same time, signaled Yu Shiqian to follow. Although he didn't come here to see Yu Shiqian, at least he had a good impression of her. Yu Shiqian nodded and followed Yi Tianyun to see what was going on. By the way, you stay here and wait for the news to come back. If you leave, you will be responsible for the consequences. Yi Tianyun's tone is very calm, but in the ears of young Master Shi, it is so scary. Yes. I definitely won't leave even half a step.